My beloved child, before this week ends, your heart must hear what fear has been trying to silence. Do not turn away yet. Do not tell yourself that this is simply another message appearing at an ordinary moment. Pause, because beneath everything you have done this week, beneath every conversation, responsibility, and forced smile, there is something your soul has been carrying quietly, and I do not want you to carry it into another week unchanged. I have seen the pressure building inside you. I have watched you continue moving while part of your heart remained tired, confused, and afraid. You completed what others expected of you. You answered questions, cared for people, solved problems, and tried to remain strong, but when the noise became quiet, the same thoughts returned. You wondered whether anything was truly changing. You asked why the answer had not come, why the door remained closed, and why you still felt as though you were standing in the same place. Listen carefully. My child, the fact that everything has not yet changed around you does not mean nothing is changing within you. Before this week ends, I want you to stop measuring my presence only by visible results. You have been looking for a dramatic sign while overlooking the quiet work taking place in your heart. You did not respond as quickly to the words that once controlled you. You recognized a pattern you previously excused. You felt the desire to return to an old cycle, but something inside you whispered, "Do not go back." You experienced fear, yet you continued. These movements may appear small, but they are not meaningless. A foundation is being formed beneath what you can see. You have asked me to change your circumstances, but I am also changing the person who will walk through them. If I gave you everything you requested while leaving the fear inside you untouched, you might carry the same anxiety into a different place. If I opened the door before strengthening your discernment, you might enter with the same habits that once caused you to abandon your peace. I am not delaying your life to punish you. I am teaching your heart how to receive without becoming controlled by what it receives. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:2-3. Your heart is not a minor part of this journey. It is the place from which your decisions, relationships, words, and reactions flow. That is why I am speaking to it before the week ends. You have spent enough time listening to the voice that says you are behind. You have compared your progress with people whose full stories you do not know. You saw their open doors and treated them as proof that yours had been forgotten. You watched their celebrations while hiding your disappointment, but another person's season is not evidence against mine for you. Their progress does not reduce your value, and their timing does not reveal your future. Stop using someone else's visible chapter to judge the hidden work taking place in yours. My beloved, there is something else your heart must hear. You are not failing simply because you are tired. Weariness is not proof that you lack faith. It may be evidence that you have carried responsibilities without enough rest, tried to control outcomes beyond your power, and remained available to everyone while neglecting the places within you that needed care. I do not condemn you for being tired. I invite you to stop pretending that strength means never needing support. Come to me honestly. You do not need polished words. You can say, "Lord, I am exhausted. I do not understand what you are doing. I want to trust you, but I am afraid." That prayer is not weakness, it is relationship. I would rather receive your honest uncertainty than a beautiful sentence that keeps your real heart hidden. Before this week ends, release the belief that you must understand everything before you can rest. Peace does not come from controlling every outcome. It begins when you recognize which burdens were never yours to carry. You cannot control another person's heart. You cannot force an apology, accelerate a promise, or guarantee that every plan will unfold as expected. But you can choose truth today. You can establish the boundary you have delayed. You can stop returning to the conversation that continually steals your peace. You can ask for help. You can forgive yourself for not knowing then what you understand now. You can place tomorrow back into my hands. My child, I know you want certainty, but sometimes I give you presence before explanation. Sometimes I do not reveal the entire road because I am teaching you to walk with me rather than merely follow a map. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. A lamp does not illuminate every mile at once. It gives enough light for the next step. You have been demanding light for the entire future while ignoring the step already visible before you. Take that step. Do what truth requires today. Do not wait for perfect confidence. Courage often begins while the hands are still trembling. And listen closely before this week ends. I am not promising that every external problem will disappear. I am offering something deeper. You do not have to enter another week governed by the same lie. You do not have to continue believing that delay means rejection, exhaustion means failure, or uncertainty means abandonment. I am still with you. I have not misplaced your prayer. I have not forgotten the tears you wiped away before anyone noticed. I have not abandoned the work I began within you. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Philippians 1:6. The week may end without every answer arriving, but it does not have to end with your heart trapped in the same fear. Something can be released tonight. Something can become clear. A burden can be returned to me. A boundary can be accepted. A lie can lose its authority. Before you ask what will happen next, let me show you what you have been carrying and why it has become so heavy. There is a reason your heart feels exhausted, my child, and healing begins when you finally stop calling that burden normal. My beloved child, the heaviness you feel did not appear in a single moment. It accumulated quietly, one responsibility at a time, one unspoken fear after another, until carrying too much began to feel normal. You learned to wake up already thinking about what needed to be fixed, who might need you, which problem could appear, and what might fall apart if you stopped paying attention. Even when your body was resting, your mind remained on duty. You called this responsibility, but beneath it was a fear you rarely admitted. If I do not hold everything together, everything will collapse. Listen carefully. My child, faithfulness does not require you to carry the entire world upon your shoulders. Some responsibilities genuinely belong to you, but many burdens you have accepted were never placed there by me. You have carried the moods of other people as though their emotions were yours to manage. You have accepted responsibility for their reactions, disappointment, choices, and refusal to communicate. You learned to measure peace by whether everyone around you was satisfied, so you changed your words, delayed your needs, and agreed to things that exhausted you. When someone became upset, you immediately searched for what you had done wrong. When someone withdrew, you assumed it was your duty to restore the connection. When conflict appeared, you believed you had failed. But another person's emotion is not always evidence of your wrongdoing. Sometimes people become disappointed because you finally establish a boundary. Sometimes they become distant because they can no longer receive the same access without responsibility. Sometimes their anger reveals that the former arrangement benefited them at your expense. You can listen compassionately without accepting ownership of everything they feel. You can examine your behavior honestly without making yourself guilty for every reaction around you. My beloved, you have also carried responsibility for changing people who were unwilling to change themselves. You saw their pain, understood their history, and recognized the goodness they could become. You remained because you believed that enough patience, prayer, and love would eventually awaken them. Compassion became a promise you made silently. I will not give up on them even if remaining here destroys me. But I did not appoint you to become anyone's savior. You can encourage, pray, speak truth, and offer support, but you cannot choose repentance for another heart. You cannot heal someone who continually refuses honesty. You cannot build a mutual relationship alone. You cannot force a person to receive help merely because you can see how much they need it. Their healing is their responsibility before me. Release the belief that their transformation will prove your faithfulness. Sometimes love remains close and perseveres. At other times, love establishes distance because continued access only strengthens destruction. Wisdom must determine the form love takes. My child, you have carried the future as though it were a problem that must be solved tonight. You mentally rehearse possibilities, prepare for disasters that have not occurred, and search endlessly for certainty. You tell yourself that worrying helps you remain prepared, but anxiety has not given you control. It has taken today's strength and spent it on tomorrow's imagined pain. You have survived the same feared event many times within your mind without it ever happening in reality. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Matthew 6:3-4. These words are not a command to become careless. They are an invitation to live within the grace actually available to you. I give strength for the day you are living, not for every possible future your fear can create. When tomorrow becomes today, grace will meet you there. You do not have to drag tomorrow into this moment to prove that you are responsible. Prepare where preparation is possible, then release what remains beyond your reach. My beloved child, you have carried conversations long after they ended. You replay what was said and imagine what you should have answered. You rewrite your words, hoping a better explanation might have prevented the misunderstanding. You analyze another person's tone, silence, and expression until one moment occupies your mind for hours. But no amount of mental repetition can change what has already happened. If a conversation requires repair, return to it calmly and honestly when appropriate. If an apology belongs to you, offer it. If clarification is needed, ask for it. But if you have spoken truth respectfully and another person remains committed to misunderstanding, release the endless trial inside your mind. You do not have to keep defending yourself before an imaginary audience. Not every misunderstanding can be corrected. Not every person is seeking clarity. Some prefer the version that protects their own position. Your peace cannot depend upon controlling their interpretation. My child, you have carried guilt for resting. When you sit down, your mind reminds you of everything unfinished. When you decline a request, you fear that you have become selfish. You believe your value increases when you are useful and decreases when you have nothing left to give. This belief has trained you to offer from emptiness. You continue saying yes after your body has already said no. You help others while resenting the cost, then condemn yourself for feeling resentful. But rest is not a reward reserved for those who have completed everything. Human work is never entirely finished. There will always be another task, another message, another need, and another expectation. If rest must wait until nothing remains, you will never receive it. I created rhythms of work and rest because you are not a machine. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowd, slept, prayed alone, and did not respond to every need at the moment it appeared. The existence of a need does not automatically mean you are the person appointed to meet it. Ask me what belongs to you. A faithful no can protect the yes you are truly called to give. My beloved, you have carried the need to appear strong. You have become the dependable person, the one others contact in crisis, the one who listens without asking much in return. This role may have brought meaning, but it also taught people to assume you needed nothing. When pain came, you remained silent because you did not want to disappoint those who depended upon your strength. You feared that if they saw your exhaustion, they would no longer respect you. But strength that never permits honesty eventually becomes isolation. You are allowed to say, "I need support." You are allowed to admit that you do not know what to do. You are allowed to cry before someone trustworthy. You are allowed to receive the care you freely offer others. Vulnerability does not erase your strength. It reveals that your strength is human and that you understand you were created for community. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Galatians 6:2. Notice that this command is mutual. You may help carry another person's burden, but you must also allow others to walk beside you. My child, there is a difference between bearing one another's burdens and carrying responsibilities that belong to another person. You can support someone without doing the work they must do. You can encourage them without repeatedly rescuing them from the natural consequences of their choices. When you continually remove every consequence, you may unintentionally protect the pattern that is harming them. Compassion does not always mean intervention. Sometimes compassion allows a person to experience enough truth to recognize the need for change. You are not cruel because you stop solving a problem another person continually recreates. You are not unloving because you refuse to finance, conceal, excuse, or manage behavior that remains destructive. Let adults carry the responsibilities that belong to them. Your help should strengthen responsibility, not replace it. My beloved child, you have carried old identities that no longer fit the person I am forming. Perhaps you were always called the quiet one, the difficult one, the responsible one, the peacemaker, or the person who never causes trouble. These labels shaped the role you believed you had to perform. When you began changing, people reminded you of who you used to be because the former version was familiar to them. But growth may require disappointing expectations built around your lack of boundaries. You are allowed to become more honest. You are allowed to speak when something is wrong. You are allowed to stop laughing at words that hurt you. You are allowed to leave an environment that repeatedly violates your peace. Growth can feel like betrayal to people who benefited from your silence. Examine yourself before me, but do not return to an unhealthy role merely because others resist your transformation. My child, you have also carried religious fear. You worried that every difficult circumstance was punishment, every delay meant insufficient faith, and every closed door revealed my disappointment. You examined yourself endlessly, searching for the mistake that caused me to withhold good things. But relationship with me is not a transaction in which perfect performance purchases immediate outcomes. Grace cannot be earned by exhausting yourself. There may be consequences for choices, and my spirit may correct you, but correction is not abandonment. Conviction is specific and leads toward a path of change. Condemnation is vague, crushing, and tells you that you are permanently rejected. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Romans 8:8. When I correct you, I remain near. I do not stand at a distance waiting for you to become worthy of my presence. My presence is what helps you return. Stop interpreting every hardship as evidence that I am against you. Some difficulties arise from human freedom, some from natural limitations, some from unjust systems, and some from choices made by you or others. Not every painful event contains a hidden accusation from heaven. My beloved, before this week ends, I want you to identify which burdens truly belong to you. Your responsibility is to live honestly, make wise decisions, repair harm you have caused, care for what has been entrusted to you, and seek help when needed. Your responsibility is not to control every outcome, satisfy every person, prevent every misunderstanding, or carry another adult's entire life. Your responsibility is not to know the future. Your responsibility is not to make everyone recognize your value. Your responsibility is not to remain permanently available. Return every burden to its proper owner. What belongs to another person must return to them, their choices, emotions, repentance, healing, and consequences. What belongs to tomorrow must remain with tomorrow. What belongs to me must be placed into my hands. Final outcomes, complete justice, the timing of doors, and the parts of the story you cannot see. What belongs to you can then become clearer. Today's decision, today's boundary, today's act of faithfulness, and today's need for rest. Confusion decreases when burdens return to their rightful places. My child, imagine carrying several heavy bags for so long that your hands have forgotten what freedom feels like. When someone offers to take them, you hesitate because the weight has become familiar. You fear that releasing it will make you irresponsible. But familiar weight is still weight. Control has never been the same as safety. Worry has never been the same as love. Exhaustion has never been the same as faithfulness. You may care deeply without living in constant anxiety. You may love someone without controlling their choices. You may work faithfully without destroying your body. You may prepare wisely without demanding certainty. You may serve others while maintaining a life of your own. My beloved child, place your hand over your heart for a moment and ask, what am I carrying that does not belong to me? Do not rush to answer. Perhaps a name appears. Perhaps a future event. Perhaps someone's disappointment, an old accusation, or a problem you have repeatedly tried to solve. Notice it without shame. Then say quietly, Lord, show me what is mine to do and give me courage to release the rest. This prayer will not always remove the practical situation immediately, but it can restore order inside you. You may discover that one conversation is necessary. You may realize a boundary must be established. You may recognize that you need counseling, rest, financial advice, medical care, or help from your community. Surrender does not mean doing nothing. It means acting within your responsibility while refusing to impersonate God over everything else. My child, the burden may attempt to return after you release it. The mind follows familiar paths. You may wake tomorrow and begin carrying the same future again. Do not condemn yourself. Release it again. Each return to truth strengthens a new pathway. Say, this decision belongs to them. This outcome belongs to God. This step belongs to me today. Repeat it until your heart learns the boundary. You are not failing because surrender must be practiced. Trust is often renewed one moment at a time. My beloved, there is a reason your heart must hear this before the week ends. If you enter the next week carrying every person, every possibility, and every unresolved conversation, you will arrive exhausted before the first day has fully begun. I do not want you to enter another week already defeated by burdens that were never assigned to you. You may still have work to do, people to care for, and difficult matters to address, but you can approach them without believing their entire outcome rests upon your strength. You are a participant, not the sovereign ruler of every story. This truth is not meant to diminish you. It is meant to let you breathe. Your limitations are not moral failures. They are reminders that you need grace, community, wisdom, and rest. You are allowed to be one person. You are allowed to live one day at a time. My child, begin releasing now. Release the need to know how everything will end. Release the responsibility for changing the person who refuses help. Release the guilt attached to rest. Release the argument that continues inside your mind. Release the identity built upon always being strong. Release the fear that my love depends upon flawless performance. Open your hands. The burdens have occupied them for so long that you have struggled to receive what is good. Empty hands are not useless hands. They are hands prepared to receive peace, wisdom, support, and the next assignment that truly belongs to you. Before this week ends, I am not asking you to solve everything. I am asking you to stop carrying everything. The difference will change the way you enter what comes next. And now that you are beginning to recognize the weight, I must show you why my silence did not mean that I had stopped working. There were moments this week when you believed nothing was happening, but much of my deepest work grows quietly before it becomes visible. My beloved child, there were moments during this week when you searched for evidence that I was still working, but everything around you appeared unchanged. You prayed, waited, looked for a sign, and listened for an answer, yet all you seemed to receive was silence. The door remained closed. The person did not change. The situation did not improve as quickly as you hoped. The uncertainty remained, and you began wondering whether your prayers had reached me at all. You asked God, "Are you listening? Have you forgotten what I told you? Why do I still feel as though I am standing in the same place?" I heard every question, including the ones you were afraid to speak aloud. My silence was not indifference. The absence of an immediate answer was not the absence of my presence. I have not turned away from you, and I have not stopped working simply because you cannot yet see the result. Much of my deepest work begins in places hidden from human eyes. A seed beneath the soil appears inactive, but its shell is opening, roots are forming, and life is moving toward the light. If you judged the seed only by the surface, you might conclude that nothing was happening. Yet the hidden work is what makes visible growth possible. So it is with you. You are looking at the surface of your circumstances while I am working beneath them. I am strengthening roots before allowing visible growth. I am revealing motives, arranging details, preparing hearts, closing unsafe paths, and developing within you the capacity to carry what you have asked me to provide. Do not mistake hidden preparation for inactivity. My child, you have often measured my faithfulness by speed. When an answer comes quickly, you say that I heard you. When the waiting becomes long, you begin to question whether I care. But my love is not greater on the days when the answer is immediate, nor is it smaller during seasons of silence. My character does not change according to your ability to perceive my movement, for I, the Lord, do not change. Malachi 3:6. Your emotions may rise and fall. Circumstances may appear hopeful one day and discouraging the next. People may promise something and later withdraw it. But I do not become less faithful because the road has become unclear. I remain who I am when you feel me and when you do not. Faith is not pretending that silence is easy. Faith is choosing not to interpret silence as abandonment. My beloved, remember the story of Joseph. He received a dream, but the next visible chapter did not look like fulfillment. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and placed in prison. The promise appeared to move farther away with every passing year. There were no immediate signs that the dream was still alive. Yet while Joseph waited, I was forming within him the wisdom, discipline, humility, and endurance required for what would come later. I was also arranging circumstances beyond his sight. The famine had not yet begun. Pharaoh had not yet dreamed. The moment of elevation had not yet arrived, but preparation was already occurring. The prison was not proof that I had forgotten Joseph. It became one of the hidden places where his future was being prepared. What appeared to be delay was not the death of the promise. My child, I am not telling you that every painful situation has the same explanation, or that every desire will unfold exactly as you imagine. I am teaching you that present silence does not give you enough information to declare the story finished. You see this moment. I see the entire landscape. You know what you want now. I also know what that answer would require, what it would affect, and whether you are asking for something that can truly sustain life. Sometimes the answer is delayed because preparation is incomplete. Sometimes the answer takes a different form because what you requested would not bring the peace you imagined. Sometimes another person's freedom is involved, and I will not force their heart merely to satisfy your preferred outcome. Sometimes the closed door is protection, though you currently experience it only as disappointment. Do not reduce every silence to one explanation. Remain open to wisdom. Ask not only, "When will this happen?" Ask also, "Lord, what are you forming in me while I wait? What truth do I need to recognize? What action belongs to me, and what outcome must I release?" Waiting with me is not passive resignation. It is attentive participation. My child, there are practical steps you may need to take. Silence does not mean you should neglect responsibility. If you need advice, seek it. If a conversation is necessary, prepare for it. If your health requires attention, Receive appropriate care. If a financial matter needs planning, make the plan. If a relationship is unsafe, establish protection. Trusting me does not require you to ignore available wisdom. Prayer and responsible action belong together. Noah trusted my warning and built the ark. Nehemiah prayed and organized the work. Esther fasted and then approached the king. Faith is not an excuse for avoidance. It is the foundation from which obedient action becomes possible. Ask me to show you the next step, then take it without demanding control over the entire outcome. My beloved, perhaps the silence you fear is partly an invitation to become quiet yourself. Your mind has been filled with competing voices, predictions, comparisons, opinions, notifications, and worst-case scenarios. You have asked to hear me while continuing to give every other voice uninterrupted access to your attention. There are moments when my guidance is not absent. It is simply being drowned beneath noise. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 4:6-10. Stillness is not merely the absence of sound. It is the decision to stop allowing fear to speak without interruption. Set aside the phone for a moment. Stop checking whether the situation has changed every few minutes. Stop searching endlessly for a message that confirms the answer you already prefer. Sit before me without demanding immediate resolution. Open Scripture slowly. Let truth become stronger than urgency. You may discover that what you need first is not new information, but a quieter heart capable of recognizing what has already been shown. My child, I often guide through peace, conviction, wisdom, Scripture, mature counsel, and consistent truth rather than through dramatic signs. Do not become so fascinated by extraordinary confirmation that you ignore ordinary obedience. You may be waiting for a voice from heaven while the next faithful step is already clear. Apologize, rest, ask for help. Stop returning to the harmful pattern, complete the responsibility before you, or tell the truth with kindness. You do not need another sign to obey what you already know is right. Sometimes the silence remains because I am asking whether you will trust the truth already given instead of demanding a different answer. My beloved child, unanswered prayer can expose what your heart has quietly made into a condition for peace. You may say, I will rest when this person changes. I will believe I am loved when this door opens. I will feel secure when I receive the money, relationship, recognition, or explanation. Without realizing it, you place your ability to live inside an outcome you cannot control. Then waiting becomes unbearable because you believe your life cannot truly begin until the answer arrives. But peace rooted only in a particular outcome is fragile. If the answer changes, peace collapses. I want to establish you more deeply. I want you to know that you are held even before the question is resolved. This does not make your desire unimportant. It prevents your desire from becoming your master. You may still ask boldly, grieve honestly, and hope sincerely while refusing to place your entire identity inside one result. My child, some of my work during silence is the exposure of false foundations. Waiting reveals what you believe about me, yourself, and the future. It reveals whether you think my goodness exists only when life follows your plan. It uncovers the fear that tells you delay means you are unworthy. It exposes the need to compare your timeline with others. This exposure is not intended to shame you. I reveal what is hidden so it can be healed. A wound cannot receive care while it remains unnamed. When waiting reveals insecurity, bring it to me. When jealousy rises, acknowledge it without allowing it to become hatred. When control tightens its grip, open your hands again. The waiting room can become a place of transformation when you stop treating every discomfort as proof that you have been abandoned. My beloved, think of David. He was anointed long before he became king. Between the promise and its visible fulfillment came years of danger, misunderstanding, and waiting. The anointing did not remove the process. The process formed the person who would carry the responsibility. If David had received the throne before his character was prepared, the gift might have become a burden greater than he could bear. You often ask me to change your position while I am also shaping your capacity. You ask for influence, but I teach humility. You ask for abundance, but I teach stewardship. You ask for a relationship, but I teach boundaries and honest communication. You ask for an open door, but I teach you not to build your worth upon human approval. Preparation is not rejection. Formation is part of the answer. My child, I know it is difficult to hear this when you are tired. You may feel that you have already learned enough lessons and waited long enough. Do not use spiritual explanations to silence legitimate grief. Tell me that you are tired. Tell me that you wanted the answer sooner. Tell me that watching others receive what you desire has been painful. I am not offended by your honesty. The Psalms are filled with questions, lament, and longing because relationship with me has room for the full human heart. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? David prayed in Psalm 131. Yet before the psalm ended, he also said, but I trust in your unfailing love. Honest grief and trust can occupy the same prayer. You do not need to choose between them. You can say, I do not understand and I still turn toward you. That is living faith. My beloved child, do not confuse emotional numbness with peace. Perhaps you stopped expecting anything because hope became painful. You told yourself that you had surrendered, but beneath the calm was disappointment protecting itself from another wound. True surrender is not the death of desire, it is the release of ownership over the outcome. You can still hope while saying, Lord, I trust you with the form, timing, and result. Numbness closes the heart to avoid pain. Surrender keeps the heart open while placing it in my care. If you have become afraid to hope, tell me. I will not shame you. Hope may return gradually. It may begin not as confidence that a specific event will happen, but as confidence that whatever happens, you will not face it alone. That hope is strong enough to survive changing circumstances. My child, there are also times when my answer has already begun, but you reject it because it does not resemble what you requested. You asked me to remove the pain, and I sent a person who encouraged you to seek help. You asked me to restore peace, and I showed you the boundary you needed to establish. You asked me to open a door, and I gave you the discipline required to prepare for another one. You asked for clarity, and I revealed a truth you did not want to accept. Do not overlook an answer because it arrives as responsibility rather than relief. Grace does not always feel like immediate comfort. Sometimes grace gives courage for a difficult decision. Sometimes it exposes what must end before something healthier can begin. Sometimes it sends support, but pride tells you that accepting support would mean failure. Remain attentive to the form in which help arrives. My beloved, while you wait, protect yourself from false urgency. Fear says you must decide now or lose everything. Wisdom allows room to observe, pray, seek counsel, and examine fruit. Not every opportunity is mine simply because it appeared quickly. Not every closed path must be forced open because time feels short. The title of this message says your heart must hear something before the week ends, but that does not mean you must panic and make a reckless decision before the calendar changes. The urgent truth is not that you must force an outcome. It is that you must stop letting fear interpret my silence. Do not allow a deadline created by anxiety to drive you back into an unhealthy relationship, an unwise agreement, or a choice that violates your values. My timing does not require panic. My guidance can carry clarity even when the decision is difficult. My child, remember Lazarus. Martha and Mary sent word that the one Jesus loved was sick, yet Jesus did not arrive according to the timing they expected. By the time he came, their brother had died. Martha said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. John 1:1-2-1. Her words carried grief and disappointment. Jesus did not reject her for speaking honestly. He entered the sorrow, wept with those who were grieving, and then revealed that the apparent ending was not beyond his authority. I am not using this story to promise that every loss will be reversed in the same way. I am reminding you that delay does not prove a lack of love. Jesus loved that family even when his timing confused them. My love for you is not measured by how closely events follow your preferred schedule. My beloved child, before this week ends, I want you to stop saying, nothing is happening merely because nothing visible has happened yet. Say instead, I do not yet see the full work. This is not denial, it is humility. You do not possess enough information to declare that every prayer has been forgotten. Leave room for what is hidden. Leave room for preparation, redirection, protection, and growth. At the same time, remain grounded. Do not invent signs or treat every coincidence as a guaranteed prophecy. Trust does not require exaggeration. You can say, I believe God is with me, without claiming certainty about an outcome he has not promised. Mature faith rests in my character rather than in dramatic predictions. My child, use this season to become attentive to what is already changing within you. Perhaps you recover more quickly after fear rises. Perhaps you recognize manipulation sooner. Perhaps you can say no without explaining for an hour. Perhaps you are beginning to ask for help. Perhaps you no longer feel compelled to answer every accusation. These changes are evidence of inner formation. Do not dismiss them because they are not the external miracle you wanted. A restored heart may become the very means through which you make different choices, enter healthier places, and recognize doors you previously would have overlooked. Internal transformation is not a lesser answer. It often changes every answer that follows. My beloved, there is one more truth you must hear. Silence does not mean I am demanding that you wait forever in a harmful situation. If you are in danger, seek safety. If someone is abusing, threatening, or controlling you, do not interpret the absence of a dramatic sign as a command to remain. Use the wisdom, support, and protection available to you. Speak with trustworthy people and appropriate professionals or authorities. My presence can guide you through practical action. Waiting upon me is never an excuse for allowing preventable harm to continue. Discernment asks what love, truth, and safety require now. My child, when silence feels heavy, return to what you know. You know that I have carried you through days you once feared you could not survive. You know that truth has become clearer than it once was. You know that you are still here, still capable of prayer, thought, choice, and another faithful step. Let remembered faithfulness become strength for present uncertainty. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old. Psalm 7:7-1-1. Memory can become an anchor when the present sea is rough. Do not remember only the disappointment. Remember the help that came, the strength that appeared, the door from which you were protected, and the person who arrived at the right moment. My beloved child, I am not absent from this quiet place. I am nearer than the conclusion fear has written. I am working in you, around you, and through means you may not yet recognize. Your task is not to uncover every hidden detail. Your task is to remain honest, attentive, responsible, and open to my direction. Complete what belongs to you today. Release what belongs to tomorrow. Refuse to call yourself forgotten before this week ends. Let your heart settle into this truth. My silence is not abandonment. My timing is not a verdict against your worth, and hidden work is still work. You may not yet see the answer, but you do not walk alone in the question. I am with you in the waiting, and I will not waste the person you are becoming there. Now I must address the lie that delay has repeated inside you, the lie that says everyone else is moving forward because they are more worthy than you. The waiting has not reduced your value. My child, and another person's timing has never been the measure of yours. My beloved child, waiting has not reduced your value. The closed door has not made you less worthy. The answer that has not yet arrived is not a declaration that someone else deserves goodness more than you do. Yet I have seen how delay has slowly changed the way you look at yourself. At first, you questioned the situation. Then, as time continued passing, you began questioning your own worth. You wondered whether you had failed spiritually, missed your opportunity, or become invisible to me. You looked at people who seemed to move forward more quickly and asked, what do they have that I do not? Why are their prayers being answered while mine remain unresolved? Why does their life appear to be opening while I still feel confined? To the same place, comparison took the uncertainty outside you and transformed it into an accusation against you. Listen carefully, my child. Another person's timing is not evidence about your value. Their open door does not mean yours has been forgotten. Their celebration is not proof of your rejection. You are looking at separate stories and attempting to measure them with the same clock, but I do not write every life according to one schedule. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. Seasons do not arrive everywhere at the same moment. One field may be blooming while another is being prepared beneath the soil. The field that appears empty is not necessarily lifeless. It may be resting, receiving rain, or developing roots that cannot yet be seen. Do not despise the season that does not look impressive. What is hidden may still be necessary. My beloved, comparison becomes especially painful because you rarely compare your entire life with another person's entire life. You compare your private struggle with their public result. You see the announcement but not the years of preparation. You see the relationship but not the conversations, sacrifices, or challenges inside it. You see the opportunity but not the responsibilities accompanying it. You see the photograph but not the moments outside its frame. Then you use incomplete information to form a complete judgment against yourself. This is not truth. You do not know the whole story of the people you envy, just as they do not know the complete weight you have carried. Stop using what you cannot see to condemn what I am doing within you, my child. Social comparison has made you believe that life is a race in which another person's progress places you farther behind. But your calling is not diminished when someone else succeeds. Their gifts do not cancel yours. Their beauty does not reduce yours. Their opportunity does not remove every opportunity available to you. You do not have to resent another person's season in order to honor your own. You can bless what is good in their life without using it as a weapon against yours. If jealousy rises, do not hide it beneath spiritual language. Bring it to me honestly. Say, Lord, I am happy for them, but their blessing has awakened my grief. I am afraid that my turn will never come. I will not condemn this honesty. Jealousy often points toward a desire that needs care. Let it reveal your longing without allowing it to become bitterness. You can grieve what you do not yet have while refusing to hate the person who has it. My beloved child, delay has also made you interpret ordinary setbacks as confirmation of personal inadequacy. One application was rejected and you concluded that you had no useful gifts. One relationship ended and you decided that you were impossible to love. One plan failed and you called your entire life a failure. You allowed a particular outcome to become a universal definition. But a rejected application measures only one decision made within one context. It does not measure the total value of your abilities. The ending of one relationship reveals that the relationship could not continue in its former form. It does not prove that you are permanently unworthy of love. A failed plan provides information about that plan. It does not write the conclusion of your whole story. Learn to speak specifically about disappointment. Say, this opportunity did not work instead of nothing ever works for me. Say, this person could not continue with me instead of no one will ever love me. Say, I made a mistake instead of I am a mistake. Specific truth creates room for learning. General condemnation creates hopelessness. My child, you have confused being chosen with being valuable. When someone chooses you, confidence rises. When they choose another person, confidence collapses. When an employer, friend, audience, or partner recognizes you, you feel visible. When they overlook you, you begin feeling insignificant. This gives human decisions too much authority over your identity. People choose according to many factors: timing, preference, capacity, familiarity, fear, limited information, and their own level of maturity. Their decision may reveal something about compatibility or circumstance, but it cannot measure the value I placed within you. Before anyone had an opportunity to approve or reject you, I knew you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Jeremiah 1:5. Your value did not begin when another person noticed it. Therefore, it cannot end when they fail to recognize it. My beloved, this does not mean you should ignore feedback or assume every rejection is meaningless. Humility allows you to learn. If your skills need development, develop them. If your behavior has caused harm, take responsibility. If you were unprepared, prepare more carefully. If a relationship exposed unhealthy patterns within you, address them. Growth and worth are not enemies. You can need improvement without being worthless. A student who is still learning has not lost human value. A person receiving correction has not become unlovable. You may say, I am growing in this area, without saying, I am inferior as a person. Healthy correction identifies behavior and offers direction. Shame attacks identity and removes hope. Learn to distinguish the two. My spirit may say, this choice was dishonest. Return to truth. Shame says, you are dishonest at the core, and nothing good can come from you. My spirit may say, you need greater discipline. Shame says, you are a permanent failure. Conviction leads toward a path. Condemnation tells you no path exists. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Romans 8:1. My child, waiting has tempted you to negotiate with your worth. You tell yourself, when I accomplish this, then I will feel enough. When I become financially secure, receive recognition, enter a relationship, or reach a certain number, then I will stop questioning myself. But every achievement creates another level to maintain. If your value depends upon performance, rest will always feel dangerous. Success may temporarily quiet insecurity, but it cannot heal the belief that you must earn the right to matter. You will continue asking, what must I do next, so I do not lose my value? I do not want you to become passive or abandon excellence. I want your work to flow from identity, rather than become an attempt to purchase identity. Work faithfully because your gifts deserve responsible development, not because you must prove that you deserve to exist. Serve from love, not from terror that people will leave if you stop being useful. Create because something meaningful has been entrusted to you, not because applause is the only evidence that your life matters. My beloved child, perhaps the delay has affected your appearance in your own eyes. You compare your age, body, family situation, career, or finances with a standard you believed you should have reached by now. You use phrases such as, "At my age, I should already have achieved this. I should have healed by now. I should be farther ahead." But many of the schedules you obey were created by culture, family expectation, or comparison rather than by truth. Human lives are not identical projects with one acceptable order. Some begin again after loss. Some discover their calling later than expected. Some spend years caring for others. Some endure circumstances that make visible progress slower. Do not condemn your journey for failing to resemble a timeline that never accounted for what you have survived. This does not mean every delay should be accepted without examination. Ask whether fear, avoidance, disorganization, or a lack of support has kept you from taking necessary steps. If so, receive truth and begin. But let action grow from hope, not from hatred of yourself. Shame may create frantic movement for a time, but it rarely produces sustainable life. Grace gives you courage to start where you actually are. My child, you are not too late to take the next faithful step. You may not be able to recover every lost year, but you can stop sacrificing the present to regret over the past. Regret says, "If I had known, I would have chosen differently." Wisdom says, "Now that I know, I can choose differently today." You cannot return to the person you were and give them your present understanding, but you can treat them with compassion. They acted with the tools, fears, information, and strength available then. Some choices need confession. Others require grief. None require endless self-punishment. You are allowed to become wiser without hating the person who had to learn. My beloved, delay has sometimes caused you to believe that you must lower your standards because perhaps nothing better will come. You consider returning to a relationship that repeatedly wounded you. You consider accepting treatment that violates your dignity. You feel pressure to say yes to an opportunity that conflicts with your values because you fear there will never be another. Scarcity speaks urgently, take whatever is available because you may receive nothing else. Wisdom speaks more quietly, examine the fruit. Do not trade long-term peace for temporary relief. Waiting can be uncomfortable, but desperation can lead you into agreements whose cost continues long after the relief has faded. Do not interpret waiting as permission to abandon discernment. Your value is not protected by being chosen at any cost. Sometimes honoring your worth means allowing a door to remain closed until truth and wisdom support entering. My child, I know you have heard people say, "Know your worth," and perhaps the phrase has become associated with pride or superiority. True worth does not make you better than others. It releases you from begging others to make you significant. When you know that your value comes from being created and loved by me, you do not need to compete endlessly. You can celebrate others. You can receive correction. You can leave places that continually dishonor truth. You can serve humbly without becoming invisible. Worth rooted in me produces both humility and boundaries. It says, "I am not above anyone, and I am not required to accept treatment that denies my God-given dignity." My beloved child, your current season may feel unproductive because the work is inward. You are learning how to rest, how to say no, how to recognize manipulation, how to receive help, and how to speak truth without aggression. These accomplishments may not appear on a resume or create public applause, but they can change every relationship and decision that follows. Do not call internal growth wasted time. A person can gain external success while carrying wounds that make the success impossible to enjoy. They may enter a new opportunity with the same fear, people-pleasing, or self-abandonment that controlled the old one. I am not interested only in changing where you stand. I care about the person who will stand there. Formation is not a detour from your future. It is part of preparing you to live within it. My child, you may ask, how do I remember my value when everything around me appears to contradict it? Begin by separating identity from circumstance. Your bank balance describes a financial reality. It does not measure your human worth. Your relationship status describes one part of your life. It does not announce whether you are lovable. Your employment status describes a circumstance. It does not erase your gifts. Your health may limit what you can do. It does not make you a burden without value. Speak accurately. Circumstances deserve practical attention, but they must not become names. You are a person experiencing a challenge, not the challenge itself. My beloved, also pay attention to the voices you repeatedly allow into your heart. Some environments keep insecurity alive because comparison, criticism, and appearance dominate every conversation. If a certain pattern of content continually leaves you feeling inferior, reduce its access to you. If a person only speaks to you through contempt, establish a boundary. If your inner voice repeats words once spoken by someone who wounded you, challenge those words. Guarding your heart includes deciding which voices receive repetition. A statement repeated often can begin feeling true even when it is false. Replace it with truth deliberately. Say, my progress is not invalid because it is slow. My value is not determined by one outcome. I can receive correction without rejecting myself. Another person's season is not a verdict against mine. I am allowed to begin again. My child, these are not magical phrases. They are reminders that help your mind return to reality. Let Scripture become more familiar than accusation. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. This verse does not mean you will always feel confident or admire every part of your life. It means your existence is not accidental or without dignity. You were formed with intention. Your limitations and wounds do not cancel that intention. My beloved child, before this week ends, forgive yourself for not being where you thought you would be. This does not mean abandoning goals. It means ending the war against your present self. You cannot build a healthy future while continually insulting the person who must take the next step. Speak to yourself with the firmness and compassion you would offer someone you love. Say, this is where I am. Some of it came through choices, some through circumstances, and some through wounds I did not choose. I will face reality honestly, receive help, and take the next available step. Acceptance is not surrender to stagnation. It is the starting point for truthful movement. My child, you have nothing to gain by pretending you are farther ahead, and nothing to gain by condemning yourself for where you stand. Truth provides solid ground. Stand there with me. Perhaps the next step is learning a skill, submitting an application, asking for counsel, beginning treatment, ending an unhealthy agreement, creating a budget, or resting long enough to recover clarity. Take the step because life matters, not because you are desperate to prove worth. Your worth already exists. The step is an expression of stewardship, my beloved. Remember that delay can sometimes protect you from receiving through desperation what you could later receive through wisdom. Desperation asks, will this make me feel chosen now? Wisdom asks, what fruit will this produce over time? Desperation ignores contradictions because it fears emptiness. Wisdom can wait long enough to examine reality. I am not glorifying delay or promising that every waiting period will end according to your desire. I am teaching you not to betray yourself merely because waiting has become uncomfortable. You can remain open to opportunity without becoming available to everything. My child, I want you to enter the rest of this week without treating the calendar as a verdict. Perhaps you did not accomplish everything you planned. Perhaps an answer did not arrive. Perhaps the week exposed how tired you truly are. Let the week become information, not condemnation. Ask what worked, what depleted you, what must change, and what needs compassion. Learn without attacking yourself. A week is a chapter, not your whole identity. Its ending does not freeze the story. You can carry wisdom forward without carrying shame. Before this week ends, your heart must hear this clearly: you are not behind in your worth. Value does not operate according to a schedule. You do not become more loved when the door opens or less loved when it closes. You do not become more significant when people applaud or less significant when your work remains unseen. Your life contains areas that need growth, but growth is possible precisely because you are not beyond hope. I am still working with you. I have not stepped away from the unfinished places. My beloved child, stop asking delay to tell you who you are. Delay knows only that the answer is not visible yet. It cannot tell you whether you are loved, called, capable of growth, or held within my presence. Let me speak to those things. You are mine. You are known. You are not condemned. You are allowed to learn. You are permitted to rest. You are capable of taking another honest step. Let these truths become stronger than the clock. Now that you are beginning to separate your worth from timing, I must address the fear beneath your need to control every detail. You have believed that control would keep you safe, but it has kept your heart continually tense. Before this week ends, I will teach you the difference between wise responsibility and the exhausting attempt to guarantee every outcome. My beloved child, you have mistaken control for safety for far too long. You believed that if you planned carefully enough, anticipated every problem, interpreted every silence, and prepared for every possible outcome, nothing would be able to surprise or wound you again. You tried to remain one step ahead of disappointment. You studied people's expressions, measured changes in their tone, and imagined what might happen before there was any evidence that it would. You called this preparation, but much of it was fear trying to create certainty in a life that cannot be completely controlled. Listen carefully. Control may give you the temporary feeling that you are protected, but it cannot promise safety. It can only keep your mind continually occupied with everything that could go wrong. You have spent hours rehearsing conversations that never occurred, preparing answers to accusations no one made, and suffering futures that never arrived. Your body remained in the present, but your mind traveled into dozens of imagined disasters. Each one demanded energy, and by the time the day ended, you felt exhausted by battles that had taken place only inside your thoughts. My child, I do not condemn you for trying to protect yourself. The need for control often grows where trust was broken. Perhaps something painful once happened without warning. Someone changed suddenly, a relationship ended, an opportunity disappeared, or a crisis arrived before you felt prepared. You promised yourself that you would never be surprised in that way again. You began believing that vigilance could prevent pain. Now even peaceful moments feel unsafe because part of you is waiting for the next problem to appear. You cannot enjoy what is good without searching for the moment when it might be taken away. You receive a blessing and immediately ask how long it will last. Someone treats you kindly, and you search for the hidden motive. A door opens, and instead of walking through with gratitude, you begin imagining all the ways you could fail. Fear has taught you to grieve good things before they are lost. But, my beloved, preparing continually for loss does not protect joy. It prevents you from receiving joy while it is present. You do not have to ruin today in order to prove that you are ready for tomorrow. Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? Matthew 6:2-7. Worry promises usefulness, but it cannot produce the certainty it offers. It does not extend your life. It steals your attention from the life already before you. My child, wise planning and anxious control are not the same. Wise planning examines what is known, makes responsible preparations, and then accepts that some factors remain beyond human power. Anxious control refuses to stop. It believes one more calculation, one more search, one more conversation, or one more reassurance will finally remove all uncertainty. But each answer creates another question. Each reassurance brings relief for only a short time before the fear demands more. The problem is no longer a lack of information. It is a heart trying to achieve a level of certainty no human being can possess. You may prepare for tomorrow, but you cannot live it in advance. You may choose carefully, but you cannot guarantee that every choice will produce the result you expect. You may love faithfully, but you cannot control another person's heart. You may care for your body, but you cannot eliminate every possibility of illness. You may work responsibly, but you cannot command the entire economy, organization, or response of others. Accepting these limits does not make you powerless. It returns you to the power you actually possess. You can choose how to respond. You can seek wisdom. You can ask for help. You can tell the truth. You can establish boundaries. You can prepare responsibly. You can take the next faithful step. But you cannot become the ruler of every outcome, and you were never created to carry that position. My beloved child, your need for control may also appear within relationships. You want to know exactly what someone is thinking, whether their feelings have changed, and what they will choose tomorrow. When they become quiet, your mind begins creating explanations. You ask repeated questions, search for hidden meanings, or attempt to manage their behavior so that you can feel secure. You may believe that if they communicate exactly as you request, never disappoint you, and continually reassure you, fear will finally disappear. But no person can carry the responsibility of eliminating all uncertainty from your heart. Healthy relationships can provide honesty, consistency, and reassurance, but they cannot promise that nothing will ever change. When you make another person responsible for your complete sense of safety, love slowly becomes surveillance. Connection becomes a test they must continually pass. You begin measuring every delay, every word, and every independent choice. My child, this does not mean you should ignore inconsistency or accept dishonesty. Discernment remains necessary. Ask direct questions. Observe patterns. Communicate needs. Establish boundaries when behavior becomes harmful. But do not treat every unknown as evidence of danger. Allow people to reveal their character through time without attempting to control every step. Trust is not blindness. It is the willingness to respond to reality rather than to every possibility fear invents. My beloved, sometimes control disguises itself as care. You tell yourself that you are only trying to help, but beneath the help is the belief that everything must happen according to your understanding. You give advice that was not requested. Intervene before someone can learn from consequences or become anxious when they make a decision different from yours. You fear that if they fail, you should have done more. But love does not require you to control another person's journey. You may offer wisdom, support, and prayer. You may intervene when someone vulnerable is in genuine danger, yet capable adults must be allowed to make choices and carry responsibility for them. You cannot prevent every mistake without also preventing growth. There are lessons people understand only when they confront the fruit of their own decisions. Your constant rescue may delay the awakening for which you have been praying. Release them into my care. This does not mean becoming indifferent. It means loving without impersonating God. My child control can also appear in your spiritual life. You pray, but then try to determine exactly how I must answer. You present the person, date, method, and outcome you prefer, and when events move differently, you assume the prayer has failed. But prayer is not a technique for forcing heaven to follow your plan. It is a relationship in which you bring your desires honestly while remaining open to wisdom greater than your own. Jesus prayed in Gethsemane, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Matthew 2:6-9. This prayer contained both honest desire and surrendered trust. Surrender did not mean the desire was false. It meant the outcome was placed into the Father's hands. You may ask clearly for healing, provision, restoration, guidance, and open doors, but let your prayer include room for my wisdom. Say, "This is what I desire, Lord, but protect me from what I cannot see. Correct my understanding. Close what would destroy peace. Lead me toward what is true, even if it differs from the picture I have created." Surrender does not weaken prayer. It frees prayer from the burden of control. My beloved child, I know why surrender frightens you. You think opening your hands means becoming vulnerable to loss. You fear that if you stop worrying, you will be unprepared. If you stop checking, something important will be missed. If you stop managing everyone, everything will fall apart. But ask yourself honestly, has control given you the peace it promised, or has it made every day feel like an emergency waiting to happen? You have tried to protect yourself through tension. You believed that remaining anxious would keep you alert, as though peace might make you careless. But peace and wisdom are not enemies. A calm mind often sees more clearly than a frightened one. Anxiety narrows attention and pushes you toward immediate relief. Peace gives you room to examine evidence, consider consequences, and choose with patience. For God gave us not a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1:7. Self-control is different from controlling everything. Self-control governs your own responses. It helps you pause before speaking, remain faithful to your values, and resist decisions driven by panic. Controlling everything attempts to govern people and outcomes that do not belong to you. I am calling you toward self-control and away from the impossible task of controlling life itself. My child, learn to identify the moment responsibility becomes control. Responsibility says, "I will prepare carefully." Control says, "I must guarantee success." Responsibility says, "I will communicate honestly." Control says, "I must make them respond as I desire." Responsibility says, "I will care for my health." Control says, "I must eliminate every possible risk." Responsibility says, "I will create a thoughtful plan." Control says, "Any change to the plan means disaster." Responsibility can rest after completing what is possible. Control never rests because possibilities never end. Ask yourself, have I done what wisdom reasonably requires? If the answer is yes, practice releasing what remains. Say, "I have prepared, I have asked, I have told the truth, I have sought counsel." The outcome is no longer mine to command. This may feel uncomfortable at first. Discomfort is not proof that surrender is wrong. It may simply mean your heart is learning a new way to live. My beloved, sometimes you use control to avoid grief. As long as you keep searching for another solution, you do not have to accept that something may be over. As long as you continue sending messages, explaining, negotiating, and analyzing, you can believe the outcome remains entirely within your hands. Acceptance feels like defeat because it requires acknowledging that your preferred future may not occur. But acceptance is not agreement with injustice, nor is it the abandonment of hope. It is the willingness to face what is presently true. You cannot make a wise decision while continually arguing with reality. Perhaps the relationship has ended. Perhaps a person has repeatedly shown that they will not change. Perhaps the opportunity has passed. Perhaps the answer is no, at least in the form you requested. Grieve honestly. Do not force a closed door because accepting its closure hurts. Some of your greatest peace will begin when you stop trying to negotiate with what truth has already revealed. My child, there are other situations where perseverance remains necessary. Surrender does not mean quitting at the first difficulty. You must discern whether the obstacle calls for patient faithfulness, a different strategy, or release. Examine the fruit. Seek wise counsel. Ask whether continued effort remains aligned with truth and responsibility or whether it is being driven by fear of failure. Perseverance possesses purpose and can coexist with rest. Compulsion feels as though you must continue because stopping would destroy your identity. One is faithful endurance, the other is bondage. Do not call obsession perseverance simply because you are afraid to let go. My beloved child, your need for control may have begun long before the current situation. Perhaps you grew up in an unpredictable environment. You learned to monitor moods, prevent conflict, and become responsible before you were ready. Control helped you survive. It gave you a sense that if you behaved perfectly, remained useful, and anticipated everyone's needs, the environment might become safer. Honor the younger part of you that learned these skills. Do not despise it. It was trying to protect you. But the strategy that helped you survive one season may now be preventing you from living freely in another. You are no longer required to manage every room. You do not have to earn safety through perfection. You may notice a mood without becoming responsible for changing it. You may allow another person to be disappointed without immediately abandoning your boundary. You may enter a peaceful day without preparing for hidden punishment. Let your body and mind learn that the danger is not always present. Professional support may help you with this process. Receiving such help is wisdom, not weakness. My child, practice surrender in small moments. You do not need to begin with the greatest uncertainty in your life. Allow someone else to complete a task differently from you without correcting every detail. Wait before checking the message again. Leave a minor question unanswered until tomorrow. Say no without writing an entire defense. Let a trusted person help you. Change a plan when circumstances require it without calling the day ruined. These small acts teach your heart that uncertainty can be survived. You may discover that the world does not collapse when you release one small area of control. Each experience becomes evidence that you can remain safe enough without managing everything. My beloved, when fear demands certainty, bring yourself back to the present. Name 5 things you can see. Notice your breathing. Feel your feet touching the ground. Ask what is actually happening now, not what might happen later. Then ask, what is one responsible action available to me? Take that action if needed and release the rest for the moment. This is not denial. It is refusing to give imagined futures the same authority as present facts. Your mind deserves compassion, but not every thought deserves obedience. Thoughts are events within the mind, not prophecies. A fear can feel convincing without becoming true. Learn to say, I notice that I am imagining the worst. I do not yet know that this will happen. I will respond to evidence as it appears. This is wisdom. My child, surrender will not always create immediate comfort. Sometimes the anxiety grows louder when you first stop obeying it. The part of you accustomed to checking and controlling may insist that something terrible will happen if you stop. Remain patient. New freedom often feels unfamiliar before it feels peaceful. Do not interpret the return of fear as failure. Practice again. Open your hands physically if it helps and say, Lord, this person belongs to you. This future belongs to you. This outcome belongs to you. Show me what belongs to me today. Then listen. Perhaps your part is one phone call, one application, one boundary, one apology, 1 hour of focused work, or one period of genuine rest. Do that part faithfully. My beloved child, there is another reason you cling to control. You fear disappointment. If you remain guarded and expect the worst, you believe pain will be smaller when it arrives. But expecting pain does not necessarily reduce its impact. It only causes you to experience sorrow before sorrow has become real. Hope requires vulnerability, but hope does not require certainty. You can hope while remaining grounded. You can say, I desire this, I will work responsibly toward it, and I will remain open to what truth reveals. This form of hope does not demand that reality obey you. It allows you to participate fully without making one result the condition of your ability to live. My child, before this week ends, identify one area where control has stolen your peace. Perhaps it is a relationship, your finances, your health, your children, your work, or a decision about the future. Write down what is within your responsibility and what is not. On one side, write the actions you can take. On the other, write the outcomes you cannot guarantee. Complete the actions with care. Then pray over the outcomes and refuse to carry them as though anxiety could command them. This simple distinction can restore order. You are responsible for effort, honesty, preparation, and wise response. You are not responsible for controlling every person, timing, and result. My beloved, I am not asking you to become careless. I am asking you to stop worshiping certainty. Certainty is not your savior. Even when all plans appear secure, life may change. Your deepest safety cannot come from guaranteeing that nothing difficult will happen. It comes from knowing that whatever happens, you will not be abandoned, and you will have access to grace, wisdom, support, and another faithful step. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Isaiah 4:3-2. Notice that this promise does not say you will never encounter water. It says you will not pass through it alone. My presence is not a guarantee that life will always follow your plan. It is the assurance that no changing circumstance can remove you from my care. My child, breathe and loosen your grip. You do not have to know everything tonight. You do not have to resolve every relationship before the week ends. You do not have to force a sign, accelerate a promise, or secure every future door. Let responsibility remain, but release the illusion of sovereignty. You are my child, not the ruler of the universe. This truth does not make you insignificant. It makes rest possible. Complete what belongs to today. Allow tomorrow to arrive in its own time. Let other people carry what belongs to them. Let me hold what exceeds your strength. Before this week ends, your heart must learn that peace is not created by controlling everything. Peace begins when you trust that you do not have to. And as your hands begin to open, you will notice what has been hidden beneath your need for control. Unresolved conversations, old guilt, resentment, and attachments that have been quietly stealing your peace. Now I will show you what must be released so you do not carry it into another week. My beloved child, there are things you have carried so quietly that you no longer recognize how deeply they are affecting you. They do not always appear as obvious crises. They hide inside unfinished conversations, repeated memories, unspoken resentment, old guilt, and attachments you know are no longer producing life. You continue completing your responsibilities, speaking with others, and moving through each day, but beneath the surface, these things consume your attention and quietly steal your peace. Before this week ends, I want you to identify what has been living inside your heart without permission. Not everything you carry announces itself loudly. Some burdens enter through a sentence you continue replaying. Some remain through an apology you never received. Some grow through the habit of checking whether a person has changed, whether they miss you, or whether consequences have finally reached them. Some hide inside the need to prove that you were right. Others remain through the guilt of a decision you cannot undo. You may appear calm while your mind continues returning to the same place. My child, peace cannot fully settle where the past is continually being retried. You have built an invisible courtroom within your thoughts. You present the evidence, imagine your defense, and prepare the words you wish you had spoken. You picture the other person finally understanding what they did. You hope they will acknowledge your pain and admit that you were not imagining it. Your desire for truth is understandable, but your healing cannot remain imprisoned until another person becomes honest. If they never apologize, your pain does not become unreal. If they continue telling a different story, truth does not disappear. If others misunderstand you, your worth does not change. I saw what happened. You do not need to convince me. Release the endless trial inside your mind. Speak where truth, safety, or responsibility requires you to speak, but stop returning to conversations that exist only to keep the wound active. You are not required to explain yourself repeatedly to people committed to misunderstanding you. My beloved, perhaps what steals your peace is resentment. You think about the person who harmed you and feel anger rise because their life appears unaffected. You wonder why you carried the consequences while they continued without visible remorse. You want justice, but the desire for justice has slowly become a desire to watch them suffer. Be honest with me about this. I do not condemn you for feeling anger. Anger often reveals that something valuable was violated. But when anger becomes your daily companion, it begins injuring the heart it claims to defend. You believe resentment keeps the offense before the court, but it also keeps the offender continually present inside you. They may no longer share your home, your work, or your conversations, yet they still occupy your attention. Every time you imagine their punishment, you return emotionally to the place from which you are trying to become free. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 1:2-1. This does not mean ignoring wrongdoing or refusing appropriate justice. It means you will not allow another person's darkness to decide what kind of person you become. You may establish boundaries, report harm, preserve evidence, seek counsel, and protect yourself or others. Justice seeks truth, responsibility, and protection. Revenge seeks to transfer pain. Place revenge into my hands. Their consequences are not yours to design. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with truth while refusing to let hatred become your identity. My child, another thief of peace is the need to know what other people think about you. You enter conversations and later examine every response. You wonder whether you spoke too much, appeared foolish, or disappointed someone. You notice a change in tone and immediately assume you caused it. You try to manage impressions, explain every decision, and make yourself understandable to everyone. But you cannot control how every person interprets you. Some will see you through their own wounds. Some will hear only the part of your story that confirms what they already believe. Some will dislike a boundary because it limits the access they once enjoyed. If your peace requires universal approval, you will never rest. Even Jesus was misunderstood, falsely accused, and rejected. Your goal cannot be to create a life no one criticizes. Your goal is to live honestly, receive correction where it is true, repair harm where you caused it, and release opinions that do not belong to you. Ask, is there truth in what was said? If there is, learn without condemning yourself. If there is not, do not keep carrying it merely because someone spoke confidently. Their opinion is not automatically my voice. My beloved child, guilt may also be stealing your peace. There are choices you regret. You wish you could return to an earlier moment with the understanding you possess now. You imagine what might have happened if you had spoken sooner, left earlier, prepared more carefully, or chosen differently. Regret can become wisdom, but guilt becomes destructive when it convinces you that lifelong punishment is the only honest response to a past mistake. If you caused harm, confess it. Apologize where appropriate. Make restitution where possible. Change the pattern. But after responsibility has been accepted, do not continue sentencing yourself every morning. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. 1 John 1:9. Forgiveness is not permission to repeat the behavior. It is the grace that allows you to become different without remaining chained to the person you were. You cannot repair yesterday by hating yourself today. You can honor the lesson by living more truthfully now. My child, some guilt does not belong to you at all. You feel guilty because you established a boundary, said no, stopped rescuing someone, or chose rest. Another person's disappointment made you question whether you had become selfish. Examine your motive honestly, but remember that disappointment is not proof of wrongdoing. People may become upset when you stop participating in a pattern that benefited them. They may call your healing abandonment because your former exhaustion made their life easier. You are not required to sacrifice your peace so others never experience discomfort. A healthy boundary may disappoint someone and still be necessary. Compassion does not require self-erasure. Release guilt that was created only because you finally honored a limit. My beloved, an old attachment may be quietly stealing your peace. You know the relationship, dream, role, or season has changed, yet your heart continues negotiating with what is no longer present. You revisit old messages, check for signs, imagine a return, and interpret every coincidence as evidence that the former chapter should reopen. Hope can be beautiful, but hope without truth can keep you waiting outside a closed door. Ask yourself what fruit the attachment produces. Does it help you live faithfully now, or does it prevent you from receiving the life already before you? Do you miss the person as they truly were, or the person you hoped they would become? Do you want restoration because genuine change has occurred, or because loneliness has made the familiar feel safe again? Releasing an attachment does not mean everything was meaningless. It means you accept that something meaningful may still be complete. You can honor what was good, grieve what was lost, and stop demanding that the past become your future. My child, do not confuse familiarity with calling. A place can feel familiar because you spent years adapting to it, not because you are meant to return. Your mind may prefer known pain to unknown freedom because it already understands how to survive the pain. But survival is not the same as peace. Before this week ends, allow yourself to say, I loved what I hoped this would become, but I will no longer abandon truth to keep that hope alive. Grief may follow. Let it come. Grief is not a sign that release was wrong. It is how the heart acknowledges that something mattered. You may cry over a door you know must remain closed. You may miss someone you should not contact. You may feel sadness and certainty at the same time. These emotions can coexist. My beloved child, another thing stealing your peace is the habit of returning to information that reopens the wound. You check their social media, ask mutual friends about them, reread old conversations, or search for evidence that they regret losing you. Before you look again, ask what you hope to receive. If they appear happy, will you feel forgotten? If they appear broken, will their pain truly heal you? If they seem to miss you, will that information tempt you to ignore the reasons distance became necessary? Curiosity does not always deserve obedience. You are allowed to protect your healing by choosing not to know. This is not weakness. It is stewardship of attention. Every time you check, you place your heart back into a story from which it has been trying to emerge. There may be practical reasons to remain informed, especially when shared responsibilities or safety are involved. In those situations, create clear channels and boundaries, but do not call emotional surveillance responsibility. Peace needs space, where the old story is no longer continually refreshed. My child, comparison may also be stealing your peace. You compare your beginning with another person's result, your private pain with their public image, and your slow healing with their visible progress. Each comparison produces the same conclusion: I am behind. But behind whom? According to which complete and truthful schedule? You do not know what another person carries outside the frame you can see. You do not know their preparation, sacrifices, support, or hidden wounds. Comparison uses incomplete information to create a complete accusation. Release it. Bless what is good in another person's life without turning it against your own. Their season does not cancel yours. Their gifts do not remove yours. If envy rises, bring it honestly to me. Let it reveal what you long for, then ask how to care for that desire responsibly. Do not allow longing to become contempt for yourself or another person. My beloved, constant noise is another quiet thief. Your heart has had little room to settle because every empty moment is filled with a screen, conversation, notification, prediction, or opinion. You say you want peace, but silence feels uncomfortable because it allows the feelings you have avoided to rise. So you continue consuming information until your mind is full and your heart remains unheard. Before this week ends, create a period of quiet. It does not need to be dramatic. Put the phone away. Sit in a simple place. Breathe. Open scripture slowly. Do not demand a revelation. Allow yourself to notice what is present. Perhaps sadness rises. Perhaps fatigue becomes obvious. Perhaps a decision you have delayed returns to your attention. Stillness does not create these things. It reveals what noise helped you avoid. In quietness and trust shall be your strength. Isaiah 3:0-15. Quietness may initially feel like discomfort before it becomes rest. Remain long enough for your heart to stop running. My child, there are words you must release because you have repeated them until they sound like facts. Nothing will ever change. I always ruin everything. Everyone eventually leaves. I have missed my chance. I am too old. I am too damaged. God has forgotten me. These statements are not neutral descriptions. They shape how you interpret every new moment. Challenge them. Ask whether they are completely true. Perhaps something has not changed yet, but nothing will ever change is a prediction fear cannot prove. Perhaps you made serious mistakes, but I ruin everything ignores every faithful choice and every opportunity for growth. Perhaps people left, but everyone leaves erases those who remained and prevents you from recognizing trustworthy relationships. Speak accurately. Say, this season is difficult, but I do not know the entire future. I have made mistakes and I can learn. I have experienced abandonment, but I am not abandoned by God. Some opportunities have passed, and another faithful step is still possible. Truth does not deny difficulty. It refuses to let difficulty become prophecy. My beloved child, unfinished tasks may also be stealing your peace. Avoidance creates a background pressure that follows you everywhere. You know the call must be made, the document completed, the appointment scheduled, or the conversation prepared, but anxiety causes you to delay. The longer you delay, the larger the task becomes inside your mind. Before this week ends, choose one responsible action. Do not try to repair everything at once. Break the task into the smallest truthful step. Open the document. Write the first paragraph. Schedule the appointment. Gather the information. Send the honest message. Action will not solve every problem immediately, but it can reduce the helplessness avoidance creates. Surrender is not the refusal to act. It is completing your part without believing you must control the whole result. My child, there may also be clutter in your physical space, reflecting emotional exhaustion. You do not need to transform your entire environment tonight. Choose one small area and restore order. Clear a table. Prepare what you need for tomorrow. Remove an object that continually pulls you into the past. Practical order cannot heal every wound, but it can create a gentler place in which healing continues. Do not shame yourself if exhaustion made ordinary tasks difficult. Begin with compassion and one manageable step. Peace often enters through small acts that tell your body, I am allowed to care for the life I have now. My beloved, release the demand that every loose end must be resolved before the week closes. Some matters will continue. Some conversations require time. Some answers are not yet available. Releasing does not mean finishing everything. It means refusing to carry everything in the same way. You can write down what must be addressed next week and give your mind permission to stop rehearsing it tonight. You can acknowledge that a question remains without asking it every hour. You can say, this is unresolved, but I do not have to resolve it in this moment. That sentence creates room for rest. The presence of an unfinished matter does not require constant mental labor. My child, there are relationships in which forgiveness may be the release your heart needs. Forgiveness does not mean denying the offense, restoring trust immediately, or removing wise boundaries. It means surrendering personal revenge and refusing to let the offense remain the center of your identity. You may not feel ready. Begin honestly, Lord, I am willing to become willing. Forgiveness often unfolds in layers. The memory may return and you may need to release judgment again. This does not make the first prayer false. It means another layer has become available for healing. Do not force emotions. Choose the direction of freedom and allow feelings time to follow. My beloved child, place your hands open before you if you can. Imagine each burden by name, the unresolved conversation, the person's opinion, the regret, the old attachment, the comparison, the feared future, and the need to be vindicated. Say, Lord, I acknowledge that this has been occupying my heart. Show me what responsible action remains. I release the part I cannot control. If an action becomes clear, write it down. If no action is available, let surrender itself become the action. You may need to repeat this tomorrow. Peace is often protected through practice. My child, do not expect release to feel only like relief. Sometimes it feels first like grief, emptiness, or uncertainty. The burden occupied so much space that its absence can feel unfamiliar. Do not rush to fill that space with another worry, relationship, or distraction. Sit with me there. Empty space is not proof that you have lost everything. It can become room for rest, clarity, creativity, and a new way of living. You asked me to bring something new, but new life requires room. Release is how room is created. My beloved, before this week ends, let one old sentence lose its authority. Let one burden return to its rightful owner. Let one unhealthy attachment receive a boundary. And let one avoided responsibility receive a faithful step. You do not need a dramatic transformation tonight. You need an honest beginning. Peace is not found by pretending the past did not happen. It grows when the past is no longer permitted to govern every present decision. Release does not erase the story. It changes your relationship with the story. The memory becomes something that happened, not something that must continue happening inside you every day. My child, you have carried enough. Let your hands become available for what is alive now. Use them to care for your body, complete meaningful work, receive support, embrace those who have shown themselves trustworthy, and open my word without demanding that it confirm your fear. The chapter behind you has spoken long enough. Before this week ends, allow peace to have a voice. And as you release what has been stealing that peace, I will lead you into the next step, forgiveness. Not a shallow forgiveness that pretends nothing happened, but a truthful forgiveness that frees your heart without removing wisdom, accountability, or necessary boundaries. My beloved child, before this week ends, there is something I want you to release from your heart, not because what happened to you was acceptable, not because the pain was insignificant, and not because the person who wounded you deserves unrestricted access to your life again, but because you were never created to remain imprisoned by what another person chose to do. I saw the moment they betrayed your trust. I heard the words they spoke when you were not present to defend yourself. I know how deeply their actions affected your confidence, your peace, your ability to trust, and even the way you now interpret kindness. Nothing about your suffering was hidden from me. You do not need to exaggerate the wound to make me understand it, and you do not need to minimize it to appear spiritually mature. I know the truth in its entirety. I know what they did, what they denied, what they concealed, and what they refused to take responsibility for. I also know the silent consequences you carried afterward, the questions that followed you into the night, the conversations you replayed in your mind, the anger you swallowed so others would not call you bitter, and the tears you wiped away before anyone could notice. I am not asking you to call evil good. I am not asking you to pretend betrayal was loyalty, manipulation was love, abandonment was protection, or abuse was discipline. Forgiveness does not rewrite the event. It changes the authority that event continues to hold over your heart. You have waited for an apology because you believed their acknowledgement would finally give you permission to heal. You imagined that if they admitted what they did, understood the damage, and showed genuine remorse, the weight inside you would disappear. But your healing cannot remain dependent upon the conscience of the person who injured you. Some people may never apologize. Some will offer words without repentance. Some will remember the situation differently because accepting the truth would force them to confront themselves. Some will continue defending what they did because pride feels safer to them than accountability. If your freedom requires their cooperation, they still possess power over you. I am calling you to forgive so that their refusal to change no longer controls your internal world. Forgiveness is not their escape from responsibility. It is your release from captivity. Romans 1:2-19 says, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath." This does not mean I ignore injustice. It means justice does not have to be manufactured by your wounded hands. You can place the case before me. You can stop serving as the judge, prosecutor, witness, and executioner in a courtroom that exists inside your mind. You can stop rehearsing arguments you may never have and imagining moments in which they finally suffer enough to understand what they caused. Every mental trial keeps you emotionally connected to the person you are trying to escape. Each time you repeat the offense without bringing it toward healing, the past enters the present and takes another portion of your peace. My child, the event may have happened once, but resentment can make you experience it 1,000 times. I do not want yesterday's wound to keep collecting interest from today's life. This is why Ephesians 4:1-32 instructs you to put away bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and every form of malice, and to forgive as you have been forgiven in Christ. That instruction is not intended to shame you for feeling pain. It is given to prevent pain from becoming your identity. Anger can alert you that a boundary was violated, but it was never meant to become your permanent home. Bitterness may initially feel like protection because it keeps the offense visible, but over time it poisons the heart that carries it. You may believe holding on proves that what happened mattered, yet you do not honor your pain by remaining bound to it. What happened mattered because you matter, and because you matter, I am leading you out of the place where the wound has ruled your emotions for too long. Forgiveness may begin before your feelings agree with your decision. You may speak the words and still feel anger tomorrow. You may surrender the person to me and later discover another layer of grief. This does not mean your forgiveness was false. It means healing is often a process. When memories return, you may need to release the offense again, not because the original decision failed, but because your heart is learning to live in the freedom your spirit has chosen. Do not condemn yourself when emotion takes time to follow obedience. Bring each returning wave to me. Say, "Father, this still hurts, but I refuse to let this pain become my master. I release this person from my personal demand for revenge, and I trust you with justice." That is not weakness. That is spiritual strength. It requires more courage to surrender vengeance than to feed it. It requires more faith to trust my judgment than to spend your life trying to force another person to recognize your worth. Understand this clearly: forgiveness and reconciliation are not identical. Forgiveness can take place within your heart even when reconciliation is unsafe, unwise, or impossible. Reconciliation requires truth, repentance, accountability, changed behavior, and mutual willingness to rebuild trust. You can forgive someone and still maintain distance. You can release bitterness and still refuse to return to a harmful environment. You can pray for a person while declining their invitation back into your private life. You can wish them healing without volunteering to become the place where they continue practicing destructive behavior. Proverbs 23 tells you to guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guarding your heart is not hatred. A boundary is not revenge. Saying no is not cruelty. Ending repeated access to manipulation is not a failure to love. Even Jesus loved perfectly, yet he did not entrust himself to everyone because he knew what was in the human heart. Love does not require blindness, and forgiveness does not require the abandonment of wisdom. I am teaching you to hold mercy and discernment together. Mercy keeps poison from growing in your heart. Discernment keeps destructive patterns from returning to your life without evidence of transformation. Do not confuse guilt with my voice when you establish a necessary boundary. Some people benefited from your lack of limits, so they may describe your healing as selfishness. They may call your clarity disrespect. They may accuse you of changing because the version of you they preferred was easier to control. Let them misunderstand what they are unwilling to examine. You are not responsible for preserving another person's comfort at the expense of your spiritual and emotional health. Forgive them, but do not surrender the wisdom you gained. The lesson does not have to disappear for the resentment to leave. You can remember without reliving. You can learn without remaining angry. You can move forward without pretending the road behind you was harmless. There is another person you must consider forgiving before this week ends, and that person is yourself. You have punished yourself for not seeing the warning signs earlier. You have replayed your decisions and asked how you could have trusted them, loved them, stayed so long, or ignored what now appears obvious. But you are judging your past self with knowledge you only gained through the experience. At that time, you made choices based on what you knew, what you hoped, what you feared, and what you had been taught to tolerate. Perhaps you wanted to believe the best. Perhaps you were afraid of being alone. Perhaps you had learned that love meant endless sacrifice without boundaries. Perhaps you were surviving with tools that were insufficient but familiar. I am not asking you to deny your mistakes. I am asking you to stop using those mistakes as weapons against yourself. Conviction identifies what needs to change and then leads you toward restoration. Condemnation repeatedly declares that you are the problem and that you are beyond repair. Romans 8:1 says, "There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." If I am not condemning you, why are you continuing to sentence yourself? Repent where repentance is necessary. Learn what must be learned. Make amends where you caused harm. Then receive the mercy you freely tell others they should accept. You cannot fully embrace a new beginning while privately insisting you deserve a permanent punishment. My grace is not merely for the version of you who behaved correctly. My grace meets you in confusion, weakness, regret, and failure. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, yet his failure did not become the final definition of his life. I restored him, recommissioned him, and entrusted him with responsibility. Your worst decision does not possess greater authority than my redeeming love. Forgive yourself for the seasons in which you did not know how to protect your peace. Forgive yourself for the times you returned after promising you would leave. Forgive yourself for begging people to recognize what they were determined to overlook. Forgive yourself for accepting crumbs because you had forgotten you were worthy of honesty and consistency. Forgive yourself for the angry words you spoke while bleeding. Take responsibility without turning responsibility into lifelong self-hatred. You are learning. You are growing. You are not required to remain the person you were in your most wounded season. There may also be anger in your heart toward me. You have been afraid to admit it because you thought honest frustration would make you faithless. You wondered why I allowed the betrayal, why I did not expose the truth sooner, why your prayers seemed unanswered, or why the consequences appeared to fall more heavily upon you than upon the person who caused the damage. Bring those questions to me. I am not threatened by your honesty. The Psalms are filled with cries of confusion, grief, and protest. David asked, "How long, Lord?" and still remained a man who sought my heart. Relationship grows through truthful conversation, not religious performance. Tell me where you felt abandoned. Tell me what you do not understand. Tell me what you expected me to prevent. I will meet you in that place without rejecting you. But do not mistake my patience for absence or my timing for indifference. You have seen only a portion of the story. I have protected you in ways you do not yet recognize, redirected paths you thought were losses, and used painful revelations to free you from futures that would have wounded you more deeply. This does not make the pain good, but it means the pain will not be wasted. Genesis 5:0-20 records Joseph saying to those who betrayed him, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Joseph did not deny their intent. He named it accurately. Yet he also recognized that human wrongdoing could not cancel divine purpose. What they did may have affected your path, but it did not destroy my plan. Their betrayal did not erase your calling. Their rejection did not reduce your value. Their lies did not change the truth I know about you. Their departure did not remove my presence. You may carry scars, but scars are evidence that the wound did not win. I can use what you survived to deepen your compassion, sharpen your discernment, strengthen your boundaries, and prepare you to recognize healthy love when it appears. Do not allow one person's dishonesty to convince you that everyone will deceive you. Do not allow one betrayal to turn every future relationship into an interrogation. Unhealed pain sees danger everywhere, even where sincerity is present. I want to heal you so thoroughly that wisdom guides you without fear controlling you. You will not have to ignore warning signs, but neither will you have to search constantly for reasons to leave. You will be able to observe character. It will make you free. Before this week ends, stop checking whether the person who hurt you is thriving. Stop measuring justice by what you can observe from the outside. Social media cannot show you the condition of a soul. Public success is not proof of private peace, and visible consequences are not the only form of accountability. Every person eventually lives inside the character they have built. Leave their outcome to me. Your assignment is not to monitor their harvest. Your assignment is to tend the soil of your own heart. Unfollow them if watching their life repeatedly disturbs your healing. Remove the messages you keep rereading. Stop returning to old photographs when you know they pull you back into an attachment I am helping you release. Do not call emotional self-injury loyalty. You are permitted to close a door that keeps reopening a wound. You are permitted to create an environment in which your nervous system can settle and your heart can recover. Release the fantasy of the apology you deserve but may never receive. Release the imaginary conversation in which you finally say everything perfectly. Release the need to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding you. I understand you. I know the complete story. Let that be enough to begin your freedom. Place their name before me now. You do not need to feel tenderness. You only need to become willing. Say, God, I give you this person and everything connected to what happened. I release my right to revenge. I ask you to heal what their actions damaged in me. Give me wisdom concerning boundaries, courage to obey you, and grace to stop carrying this offense. If you cannot yet say I forgive, begin with God, make me willing to forgive. I can work with willingness. A small opening is enough for light to enter. Do not force an emotion you do not possess. Offer me the truth you have, and I will lead you step by step. As you release them, breathe slowly. Unclench your hands. Relax the muscles that have stayed prepared for another battle. You do not have to fight tonight. You do not have to solve the past before you sleep. You do not have to convince anyone of anything. Let me be your defender. Psalm 1473 says that I heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is remembering without losing your peace. Healing is hearing their name without feeling your entire body return to the moment of betrayal. Healing is recognizing that the offense is part of your history but no longer the center of your identity. Healing is understanding that you were wounded but you are not permanently broken. This week may have carried reminders, triggers, and unresolved emotions, but you do not have to carry them all into the next one. Let forgiveness become the doorway through which you leave captivity. Do not wait until the person deserves it. Forgiveness has never depended upon their worthiness. It depends upon your decision to trust me with what you cannot repair. I forgave you not because sin was insignificant, but because love made a path toward freedom. Now allow that received mercy to flow through you without confusing mercy with renewed access. Release them. Bless them from a distance if distance is needed. Pray that truth reaches them, but do not make their transformation your responsibility. Then turn your attention toward the life still waiting for you. There are relationships that will not require you to betray yourself to maintain them. There are people who will respect the boundaries others mocked. There are conversations in which your honesty will not be punished. There is peace that does not depend upon someone else finally admitting you were right. But your hands must open to receive what is ahead. Resentment keeps your hands closed around the past. Forgiveness opens them again. My beloved child, before this week ends, forgive what you are ready to release, become willing concerning what still feels impossible, and forgive yourself for being human while you learn painful lessons. You are not excusing the wound. You are ending its control. You are not declaring the offender innocent. You are placing judgment into hands more righteous than your own. You are not becoming weak, you are reclaiming the strength that bitterness has consumed. Let the past remain where it belongs. Let wisdom stay, let boundaries stand, and let resentment go. Walk into the coming days lighter, clearer, and no longer emotionally chained to those who harmed you. The next part of your journey cannot be built upon constant self-condemnation, because even after you forgive others, an accusing voice may still try to convince you that you are unworthy of peace, love, restoration, and a new beginning. Before you enter a new week, I will teach you how to silence that voice and stop carrying words against yourself that I never spoke over you. My beloved child, before you enter a new week, I want you to recognize the voice that has been speaking against you in the privacy of your own mind. You have heard it so often that you may no longer question whether it is telling the truth. It reminds you of every mistake, magnifies every weakness, and turns every delay into evidence that something is wrong with you. It says you should have known better, acted sooner, prayed harder, been stronger, or achieved more by now. When something goes wrong, it immediately puts you on trial. When someone leaves, it tells you that you are not worthy of being loved. When an opportunity closes, it declares that you are not talented enough. When you become tired, it calls you lazy. When you need help, it calls you weak. When you struggle with faith, it calls you a disappointment to me. But listen carefully, that accusing voice is not my voice. I correct you because I love you, but I do not crush you. I reveal what must change, but I do not define you by what you did. I lead you toward repentance, restoration, and life. Condemnation traps you inside shame and tells you there is no way forward. You must learn the difference, because not every spiritual-sounding thought comes from me. Conviction is specific. It shows you an action, attitude, or pattern that needs to be surrendered, and then it directs you toward grace. Condemnation is vague and absolute. It does not simply say that you made a mistake. It says you are a mistake. It does not identify a behavior that needs correction. It attacks your identity. It tells you that you always fail, never change, ruin everything, and deserve to remain where you are. Conviction opens a door. Condemnation builds a prison. Conviction brings you closer to me. Condemnation makes you hide from me. Remember what happened after the first human failure in the garden. Adam and Eve hid because shame convinced them that they could no longer stand openly in my presence. Shame still uses the same strategy. It tells you to withdraw until you have repaired yourself, to avoid prayer until you feel worthy, and to stay silent because I must be tired of hearing your apologies. Yet you cannot heal by hiding from the one who heals you. You do not have to clean yourself before you come to me. Come honestly, come wounded, come ashamed, come with questions, and come even when you have repeated the same failure. I already know the truth, and I am still calling you closer. Romans 8:1 declares that there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Do not read those words as though they apply only to people who have never disappointed themselves. They apply to the repentant, the recovering, the weary, and the person who is still learning how to walk in freedom. The sacrifice of Christ was not incomplete. Your shame cannot improve what His grace has already accomplished. Continually punishing yourself does not prove that you are sorry. It only proves that you have not fully received the mercy you say you believe in. There is a form of pride hidden inside relentless self-condemnation because it assumes your judgment of yourself is more authoritative than mine. When I say you are forgiven, you answer that your failure was too serious. When I say you are being restored, you insist you have fallen too many times. When I call you beloved, you present a list of reasons why you should be rejected. My child, your list is not greater than the cross. Your weakness has not surprised me, and your past has not created an emergency in heaven. I knew every chapter before I called your name. I did not choose an imaginary, flawless version of you. I chose you while knowing the entire truth. This does not give you permission to continue deliberately in destructive behavior. Grace is not an excuse to remain unchanged. Grace is the power that makes transformation possible. But transformation cannot flourish in the soil of self-hatred. You may fear that if you stop criticizing yourself, you will become careless. You may believe shame keeps you disciplined, alert, or humble. In reality, shame drains the strength you need to change. A person who believes they are permanently broken eventually begins to behave according to that identity. If you repeatedly tell yourself, "This is simply who I am," you will stop expecting growth. If you call yourself worthless, you will tolerate environments that treat you as worthless. If you define yourself by one season, you will resist opportunities that belong to the person you are becoming. I am not asking you to deny responsibility. I am asking you to separate responsibility from identity. You may have acted unwisely, but you are not wisdomless forever. You may have trusted the wrong person, but you are not doomed to repeat that choice. You may have lost time, but your life is not over. You may have spoken words you regret, but those words do not possess the authority to cancel your future. Confess what was wrong, repair what can be repaired, learn what must be learned, and then move forward. Repentance means turning in a new direction. It does not mean standing forever at the location of your failure and describing how terrible it was. Peter denied Jesus 3 times during the hour when loyalty mattered most. He did not merely make a small social mistake. Fear caused him to deny the relationship he had publicly proclaimed. Afterward, he wept bitterly. Yet the risen Christ did not approach Peter to humiliate him before the other disciples. He restored him through love and entrusted him with purpose. Peter's failure became part of his testimony, but it did not become the end of his assignment. If Peter had allowed self-condemnation to define him, he might have remained beside the fishing boats, convinced that one terrible night had disqualified him forever. But grace called him forward. I am calling you forward as well. Stop returning to the place where I have already met you with mercy. Stop reopening a case that has been settled through confession and grace. The memory may remain because it contains a lesson, but the sentence does not remain. You have been treating some old memories as permanent court records against your worth. A careless decision from years ago still appears whenever you consider trying again. A failed relationship becomes evidence that you are difficult to love. A financial mistake tells you that you cannot be trusted with future opportunities. A season of depression or exhaustion becomes proof that you are spiritually weak. A moment when you did not defend yourself becomes proof that you are a coward. But one moment cannot summarize an entire life. You were responding with the understanding, strength, and emotional resources available to you at that time. You are allowed to grow beyond the person who made that decision. Do not demand that your past self possess wisdom that only experience could teach. Honor the lesson without abusing the learner. Speak to yourself with the same patience you would offer someone you deeply love. You would not look at a wounded child and say, "You should have healed faster." You would not tell a grieving friend, "Your tears prove that you have no faith." You would not tell someone recovering from betrayal, "You are foolish because you still feel pain." Yet you have spoken to your own heart with a cruelty you would never direct toward another person. This must change. Proverbs teaches that life and death are in the power of the tongue. The words you repeatedly speak over yourself influence what you expect, permit, pursue, and believe. Your language cannot replace faithful action, but destructive language can weaken your willingness to act. Notice the phrases you use automatically. I always ruin things. Nobody stays. Nothing works for me. I will never change. I am too damaged. I am too old. It is too late. God must be disappointed in me. Do not allow familiar words to escape examination. Ask whether they agree with truth. I made a mistake may be truthful. I ruin everything is an accusation. This relationship ended may be truthful. Nobody will ever love me is a prediction formed by pain. I am struggling today may be truthful. I will never recover gives a temporary condition, permanent authority. I need to mature in this area may be truthful. God cannot use me denies my ability to redeem and transform. Replace exaggeration with accuracy. Replace accusation with responsibility. Replace hopeless predictions with humble trust. Say, I failed here, but I can learn. Say, I am hurting, but healing is possible. Say, I do not know what will happen next, but I am not facing it alone. Say, this season is difficult, but it is not the definition of my entire life. Say, I am still becoming who God has called me to be. These are not empty affirmations designed to ignore reality. They are statements that hold pain and hope together. Be careful also about accepting the labels other people placed upon you. Some of the condemning voice in your mind did not originate with you. It may sound like a parent who criticized everything you did, a partner who used your vulnerabilities against you, a teacher who underestimated you, a religious leader who controlled you through fear, or a friend who repeatedly mocked the dream growing in your heart. Their words entered during moments when you did not yet know how to protect your identity. Over time, you began repeating their judgments in your own voice. You no longer needed them in the room because the accusation had already taken residence within you. But repetition does not turn a lie into truth. Someone's inability to recognize your value does not determine whether value exists. Their words may reveal the condition of their heart more than the condition of yours. Bring every label before me. Were you called too sensitive when you were actually discerning that something was wrong? Were you called difficult because you finally established a boundary? Were you called selfish because you stopped abandoning yourself to satisfy everyone else? Were you called a failure because your path did not match someone else's schedule? Were you called weak because you admitted that you needed rest? Let me separate truth from manipulation. Perhaps some criticism contains a lesson you need to receive, but no human opinion has the right to become your permanent identity. Receive correction without receiving contempt. Learn without allowing another person's anger to name you. You belong to me. Your identity must be rooted more deeply in my love than in public approval. Even compliments cannot safely define you, because the same crowd that celebrates you today may criticize you tomorrow. If praise creates your worth, criticism will destroy it. Build upon something steadier. You are my workmanship, created for good works that I prepared for you. You are not a random collection of failures trying to earn a place in my attention. You are a life under construction. Construction can look disordered before the design becomes visible. There are areas where I am removing unstable foundations, strengthening weak structures, and teaching you to carry what you once prayed to receive. Do not condemn a work in progress for not yet appearing complete. I am patient with the process, and you must learn to become patient with it too. This week may not have looked the way you hoped. Perhaps you delayed an important task, reacted emotionally, wasted time, returned to an old habit, missed an opportunity, or failed to keep a promise you made to yourself. Examine the week honestly, but do not turn reflection into punishment. Ask 3 clear questions. What must I acknowledge? What can I learn? What is the next faithful action? Then take that action. If you need to apologize, apologize without defending yourself. If you need to reorganize your time, create a realistic plan. If you need support, ask for it. If you need professional help for trauma, anxiety, depression, or another serious struggle, seeking qualified care is not evidence of weak faith. Wisdom accepts appropriate help. If you need rest, stop treating exhaustion as a moral failure. If you need to begin again, begin with the smallest action you can faithfully complete. Do not spend another week waiting to feel perfectly confident. Confidence often grows after obedience, not before it. Shame tells you to avoid the task because failure would confirm your fears. Grace tells you that you can take one step without demanding certainty about the entire road. The enemy of progress is often not inability, but the belief that anything less than perfection is worthless. You have abandoned good beginnings because they were not impressive. You have discarded small progress because it did not erase every problem. But I often work through seeds, steps, repeated choices, and quiet faithfulness. A prayer spoken through tears still matters. 10 minutes of focused work still matters. One healthy boundary still matters. One honest conversation still matters. One night of true rest still matters. One decision not to return to what harmed you still matters. Do not insult small obedience because it does not produce immediate applause. Zechariah 4:10 warns against despising small beginnings. What looks insignificant today may become the foundation of a life you cannot yet imagine. Release perfectionism before the new week begins. Perfectionism often disguises itself as excellence, but the two are different. Excellence gives sincere effort while accepting human limitation. Perfectionism attaches your worth to flawless performance and makes every mistake feel dangerous. Excellence can rest after faithful work. Perfectionism never feels finished. Excellence welcomes instruction. Perfectionism experiences correction as rejection. Excellence grows through practice. Perfectionism avoids beginning because it fears being seen as inexperienced. I am not demanding perfection from you. I am forming maturity, faithfulness, humility, and love. You will make mistakes while learning. You will have days when old emotions return. You will occasionally respond from fear before remembering what peace has taught you. When that happens, return quickly. Do not use one wrong turn as permission to abandon the entire journey. A stumble is not a new identity. My mercy is new every morning, not because failure is meaningless, but because my commitment to restoring you remains. There is also no need to compare your progress with another person's visible results. Comparison often becomes another form of self-condemnation. You look at someone else's marriage, ministry, career, health, confidence, or influence, and immediately use their life as evidence against your own. You do not know the full cost of their journey, the private struggles behind their presentation, or the timing of what I am doing in them. Their fruit does not prove your soil is cursed. Their season does not announce that yours has been forgotten. Stay attentive to the work placed before you. You cannot faithfully live your assignment while constantly measuring it against someone else's. Ask me what obedience looks like for you now. Perhaps your next faithful step is not dramatic. It may be sleeping at a healthier hour, completing an unfinished task, making a difficult phone call, returning to prayer without performance, ending contact with a harmful influence, or accepting that healing requires time. Do that without contempt for its simplicity. The new week does not need a flawless version of you. It needs an honest, teachable, surrendered version of you. Before this week ends, I want you to put down the internal weapon you have aimed at yourself. You cannot heal while continually attacking the person I am healing. You cannot confidently receive love while rehearsing reasons you are unworthy of it. You cannot move freely toward purpose while dragging a courtroom behind you. Close the court, dismiss the false charges, confess the real ones, receive forgiveness, and leave the room. When the accusing thought returns, do not negotiate with it for hours. Answer it with truth. Say, that happened, but it has been surrendered. Say, I accept responsibility, but I reject condemnation. Say, God is correcting me, restoring me, and leading me forward. Say, my past explains parts of my story, but it does not own my future. Say, I am not beyond grace. Then redirect your attention toward the next faithful task. Freedom is strengthened through repeated practice. You may need to reject the same accusation many times before your emotional habits change. Persistence does not mean the truth is weak. It means your mind is being renewed. Be patient as new patterns form. My beloved child, do not enter the coming week speaking death over a life I am still shaping. Do not call hopeless what I have not finished. Do not call disqualified what I have redeemed. Do not call abandoned what I continue to hold. You are not every accusation your mind produces. You are not the harshest sentence someone spoke over you. You are not the worst thing you have done or the worst thing done to you. You are mine, and you are being transformed. Let mercy have the final word over this week. Let truth replace exaggeration, responsibility replace shame, and obedient action replace endless self-punishment. Lift your head, take a full breath, receive the grace available to you now. The week ahead may require courage, but you will not meet it as a condemned person begging for another chance. You will meet it as a beloved child who has been forgiven, taught, corrected, and invited to continue. And as the voice of accusation grows quieter, I will begin touching the deeper wound beneath it, the pain you have concealed from others, the grief you have renamed as strength, and the broken places you believed had to remain hidden. In the next part, I will lead you gently toward the healing of what you have spent so long trying to cover. My beloved child, there is a place within your heart that you have kept hidden for a long time. You learned how to protect it with a smile, cover it with responsibilities, and silence it by staying busy. You became skilled at answering, "I'm fine," even when something inside you was quietly falling apart. You kept showing up, helping others, completing your work, caring for your family, and doing what everyone expected while carrying a pain no one could see. Some people admired your strength without realizing that your strength had become a hiding place. They saw how calmly you handled pressure, but they did not see the nights when your thoughts would not let you rest. They saw your faith, but they did not hear the questions you were afraid to speak aloud. They saw you encouraging others, but they did not know how difficult it had become for you to believe those same words for yourself. You thought that if you kept moving, the wound would eventually disappear. You hoped time alone would heal what happened. Yet time does not automatically heal every wound. Sometimes it only teaches you how to function around the pain. You adapted to the injury, organized your life around it, and called that survival healing. But I did not bring you this far merely to help you conceal your brokenness more effectively. I am bringing you into a deeper kind of freedom. I am touching the place you have avoided, not to expose you to humiliation, but to release you from the exhausting work of pretending it does not exist. I already know what you have hidden. I know the memory you push away whenever it begins to surface. I know the name that changes your breathing when someone mentions it. I know the disappointment you have never fully grieved, the rejection you still personalize, the betrayal that altered your ability to trust, and the secret shame you fear would change how others see you. I know what happened behind closed doors. I know what was said to you when no one else could hear. I know what you endured because you did not believe you had permission to leave. I know the choices you made while afraid, lonely, confused, or desperate to be loved. Nothing you reveal to me will make me step away from you. Psalm 139 teaches that I know when you sit and when you rise, that I understand your thoughts from far away, and that even darkness is not dark to me. There is no locked room in your heart that my love cannot enter. There is no memory so painful that my presence cannot meet you there. There is no shameful chapter that causes me to regret calling you my child. You may have hidden the wound from other people, but you have never hidden it from me, and I have never stopped loving you while knowing the complete truth. You have been afraid that opening this place will make the pain worse. You worry that if you begin crying, you may not know how to stop. You fear that if you admit how deeply you were hurt, you will no longer be able to maintain the image of strength that has protected you. But unexpressed grief does not disappear. It often changes its form. It may become irritability toward people who did not cause the original wound. It may become anxiety when life feels uncertain, numbness when someone tries to come close, exhaustion that rest does not seem to fix, or a constant need to control your surroundings. It may appear as perfectionism because mistakes make you feel unsafe. It may appear as people-pleasing because rejection once taught you that love must be earned. It may appear as independence because dependence once ended in disappointment. It may appear as overthinking because your mind believes that analyzing every possibility can prevent another betrayal. These patterns are not proof that you are hopeless. They are signs that some part of you learned to survive. Do not hate yourself for the defenses you developed when you did not know another way. Thank me that they helped you endure what you could not yet process, but understand that a survival response should not become a permanent identity. What protected you in one season may restrict you in the next. The walls that kept danger out may now be keeping healthy love, honest connection, and peace from entering. I am not tearing those walls down violently. I am teaching you patiently and safely that you no longer have to live as though the painful moment is happening every day. Healing begins when you stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened to me? What did it teach me to believe? And what truth is God showing me now?" Perhaps rejection taught you that you were difficult to love. Perhaps abandonment taught you that everyone eventually leaves. Perhaps manipulation taught you that your perceptions could not be trusted. Perhaps criticism taught you that mistakes made you unworthy. Perhaps betrayal taught you that closeness was dangerous. Perhaps loss taught you not to hope because hope seemed to make grief more painful. These conclusions may feel like facts because they were formed during intense emotion, but pain is not always a reliable interpreter. What happened was real, yet the meaning you attached to it may not be true. Someone leaving does not prove that you are unlovable. Someone lying to you does not prove that you were foolish for valuing honesty. Someone failing to protect you does not prove that you were unworthy of protection. Someone taking advantage of your kindness does not make kindness a weakness. Their behavior revealed their condition. It did not establish your value. Let me separate the event from the identity you built around it. You experienced abandonment, but you are not abandoned. You experienced betrayal, but you are not permanently unsafe. You experienced failure, but you are not a failure. You experienced grief, but grief is not the final atmosphere of your life. You were wounded, but you are not the wound. Isaiah 61 speaks of binding up the brokenhearted and exchanging beauty for ashes, gladness for mourning, and praise for despair. Notice that I do not deny the ashes. I meet you while they are still in your hands. I do not shame the mourning. I enter it with you. Healing does not require you to pretend the loss never mattered. It gives you the ability to remember without allowing the memory to determine every future decision. Some of your pain has remained hidden because other people minimized it. They said you should be over it by now. They compared your suffering with someone else's and made you feel guilty for struggling. They told you to pray more when you needed both prayer and patient support. They quoted scripture without first listening to your heart. Their inability to sit with your pain taught you to hide it, but your healing does not have to follow another person's timetable. A wound does not become insignificant because someone else does not understand it. Bring it to me without editing the story to make it more acceptable. Tell me that you are angry. Tell me that you are disappointed. Tell me that part of you still wishes the past had unfolded differently. Tell me about the questions that have no simple answers. Lament is not unbelief. It is pain brought into relationship with me. When Jesus stood before the tomb of Lazarus, he knew resurrection was coming, yet he still wept. Hope did not eliminate grief, and grief did not cancel hope. You can trust me and still mourn. You can believe that I am restoring you and still have moments when the loss feels heavy. You can be grateful for what remains while grieving what was taken. Stop forcing yourself to choose between faith and emotional honesty. I created your emotions, and I can teach you how to experience them without becoming ruled by them. When sadness rises, do not immediately bury it beneath distractions. Sit quietly and name what you are grieving. When anger appears, ask what boundary was crossed or what injustice remains unresolved. When fear speaks, ask what it believes is about to happen. When shame urges you to hide, answer it with the truth that you are fully known and still loved. Emotions are messengers, but they are not masters. Listen to what they reveal, bring their message to me, and let truth determine your response. There are moments when healing will occur in prayer, but there are also wounds that should not be carried alone. I may answer your prayer through a trustworthy friend, a mature spiritual leader, a licensed counselor, a physician, or another qualified professional who can help you understand what your body and mind have endured. Seeking appropriate help is not a betrayal of faith. Wisdom recognizes the means of care I place within reach. You do not prove your spirituality by suffering in secrecy. James 5:16 speaks of confessing to one another and praying for one another so that healing may come. This does not mean exposing your private life to everyone. Not every person has earned the right to enter your vulnerable spaces. Choose someone who listens without gossiping, respects boundaries, speaks truth without cruelty, and does not use your story to elevate themselves. Safety and honesty must grow together. You may begin with one sentence: "There is something I have been carrying and I think I need help." You do not have to explain everything at once. Healing can unfold at a pace your heart is able to sustain. I am not rushing you. I am asking you to stop running from yourself. Pay attention also to your body, because it may be carrying what your words have never expressed. Your shoulders tighten, your jaw clenches, your stomach turns, or your heart races before your conscious mind understands why. Certain places, dates, voices, smells, or situations may awaken an old alarm. Do not condemn yourself when this happens. Your body learned to associate particular signals with danger. Pause. Place your feet on the ground. Breathe slowly. Look around and remind yourself where you are. Say, "That was then, this is now. I am here, and in this moment, I am safe." Invite me into your breathing, your thoughts, and the tension you feel. Healing is not only a spiritual idea. It can involve retraining your entire being to recognize that the threat has passed. Give yourself permission to rest. Eat consistently. Move your body with care. Reduce the noise that keeps your nervous system constantly activated. These actions are not substitutes for faith. They can be expressions of faithful stewardship. You are not a spirit disconnected from a body. I care about the whole person. Do not expect your heart to recover while continually placing yourself in the environment that caused the injury. Sometimes you ask me to heal a wound while maintaining unrestricted access for the person who repeatedly reopens it. Compassion does not require continued exposure to harm. If someone refuses accountability, mocks your boundaries, distorts your words, or repeatedly uses your forgiveness as permission to continue destructive behavior, distance may be necessary. You can love without remaining available for mistreatment. You can pray for someone without trusting them with your private life. You can forgive while requiring evidence before trust is rebuilt. Trust is not restored by promises alone. It grows through consistent truth, humility, and changed behavior over time. Do not allow pressure, guilt, loneliness, or religious manipulation to force you into premature reconciliation. I am a God of truth as well as mercy. Genuine peace is not created by pretending a pattern has changed when it has not. Yet be careful that protection does not become permanent isolation. The goal of a boundary is not to make love impossible. It is to create conditions in which healthy love can be recognized and received. The person who harmed you is not the model for everyone you will meet. Do not punish safe people for wounds they did not create. When someone shows consistency, allow trust to grow slowly. Speak about what you need. Notice whether their actions agree with their words. Let relationships develop through observation rather than desperation. You do not have to reveal everything immediately to prove sincerity, and you do not have to remain emotionally unreachable to prove wisdom. Healing will teach you the difference between secrecy and privacy, between suspicion and discernment, and between self-protection and self-respect. There is also a hidden grief connected to the version of life you expected to have by now. You may be mourning a marriage that did not happen, a family relationship that never became healthy, a career that took a different direction, a dream delayed beyond your preferred timeline, or a version of yourself you believe you lost. You look at your age, your circumstances, and the distance between expectation and reality, and you quietly wonder whether your best possibilities have passed. Bring that grief to me too. You are allowed to mourn the imagined future that did not become your present, but do not build a permanent home inside that imagination. The life in front of you still contains meaning. A changed plan is not an empty life. A delayed answer is not a forgotten prayer. An ending does not mean I have run out of ways to lead you. Isaiah 43:1-8-19 says not to remain fixed on former things, because I am doing something new, making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. The new thing may not resemble what you originally requested. At first it may appear as a boundary, a difficult truth, an unexpected ending, or a small opportunity that seems unrelated to your dream. Do not dismiss it because it arrives in unfamiliar clothing. Healing often changes what you desire because you are no longer choosing from the same wound. You begin to want peace more than attention, consistency more than intensity, character more than charm, truth more than temporary comfort, and purpose more than approval. What once attracted you may no longer hold power because the empty place it used to exploit is being filled. This is evidence of healing. You will notice that you no longer feel compelled to explain yourself to everyone. You will stop chasing people who offer confusion instead of commitment. You will recognize manipulation sooner and respond without abandoning your values. You will become less interested in proving that you are healed and more committed to living honestly. Triggers may still arise, but they will no longer determine your entire day. Memories may visit, but they will not be allowed to move back in. You will think of what happened and realize your body is no longer preparing for battle. You will hear a familiar song, pass a familiar place, or see a familiar name, and notice that the moment no longer owns you. Do not underestimate these quiet victories. Healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is sleeping through the night. Sometimes it is saying no without explaining for 20 minutes. Sometimes it is receiving a compliment without rejecting it. Sometimes it is laughing without guilt, making a new plan, deleting an old message, or realizing that you went an entire day without mentally returning to the wound. Celebrate progress without demanding perfection. There may still be difficult days. A setback does not erase your growth. A strong emotional reaction does not mean you are back at the beginning. It may simply reveal another layer that is ready to receive care. Healing is rarely a straight line. I can revisit a place without returning you to captivity. Each layer may require a deeper truth, a stronger boundary, or a new act of surrender. Be patient. A wound formed over years may not disappear in one prayer, though one prayer can begin a decisive change. Do not measure my work only by immediate emotion. Roots often grow before fruit becomes visible. I am working beneath the surface, correcting beliefs, restoring your ability to trust yourself, and teaching your heart that peace does not have to be temporary. I am also reclaiming the gifts you buried beside the pain. You silenced your voice because someone punished your honesty. You reduced your dreams because failure made hope feel dangerous. You stopped creating because criticism convinced you that your work had no value. You withheld affection because love had been used against you. But the wound does not get to keep what I placed within you. Your voice can return. Your creativity can breathe again. Your capacity to love can become wiser without becoming colder. Your dream can be rebuilt with stronger foundations. Joel 2:25 speaks of restoring the years that were consumed. Restoration does not always mean receiving the exact thing that was lost in the same form. Sometimes it means that what you learned, became, and discovered through the journey produces fruit greater than what the painful season attempted to destroy. I can restore confidence without returning you to arrogance. I can restore love without returning you to dependency. I can restore purpose without returning you to the environment where you lost yourself. I can give you something new that honors the lesson without repeating the suffering. My beloved child, place your hand over your heart and speak honestly with me now. Father, you know what I have hidden. You know the memory I avoid, the grief I minimize, and the shame I carry. I give you permission to enter every guarded place. Show me the lies formed by pain and replace them with truth. Teach me when to speak, whom to trust, what boundaries to establish, and what help to receive. Heal my mind, my body, my emotions, and my ability to hope. I will not call myself weak for needing time. I will not continue pretending that survival is the same as freedom. Lead me gently, but lead me completely. I hear that prayer. I am not standing over you with impatience. I am beside you with compassion. I will not expose your wound for public entertainment. I will uncover only what I intend to heal, and I will provide grace for every truth you become ready to face. Let the tears come if they need to come. Tears are not evidence that you are losing control. They may be evidence that your heart finally feels safe enough to release what it has held. Let silence exist without filling it immediately. Let your soul speak before you rush back into activity. You do not have to solve everything tonight. Your responsibility is to remain honest and willing. Mine is to guide the process with wisdom greater than your own. Before this week ends, stop treating your hidden pain as an enemy that must be buried. Bring it into my presence. What remains hidden can continue influencing you without being examined, but what is brought into the light can be named, understood, surrendered, and healed. You are not too damaged for restoration. You are not too complicated for love. You are not too late to recover what pain caused you to abandon. The person you were before the wound is not the only version worth recovering. I am forming someone wiser, more discerning, more compassionate, and more deeply rooted than before. You will not emerge without scars, but the scars will no longer speak louder than grace. They will remind you that you survived, that truth found you, and that my presence remained even in the chapters where you could not feel it. Do not be ashamed of your healing process. Do not compare its speed with anyone else's. Continue one honest prayer, one healthy boundary, one truthful conversation, and one faithful decision at a time. I am restoring the places you hid, and as that restoration deepens, you will become ready for what comes next. Healing is not only about leaving pain behind, it is also preparation for carrying new responsibility without repeating old patterns. The next road will require a heart that is open but discerning, hopeful but grounded, compassionate but boundaried. In the next part, I will show you how to prepare that heart for the path ahead, so that you do not enter a new season with the habits, fears, and attachments of the one I am leading you out of. My beloved child, I am not healing your heart merely so you can return to the life you lived before the pain. I am preparing you to move forward differently. The next stage of your journey cannot be entered with the same fears, attachments, habits, and beliefs that kept you trapped in the last one. You have asked me to open new doors, restore what was broken, and guide you into something better, but before your circumstances change, your heart must become ready to carry the answer. A new opportunity placed in an unprepared heart can quickly become another source of anxiety. A healthy relationship entered with unhealed suspicion can be damaged by wounds the other person did not create. A larger responsibility given to someone who still measures worth through performance can become a heavier prison. An answered prayer received without wisdom can be mishandled through fear. This is why preparation matters. What feels like waiting is not always inactivity. There are seasons when I am developing within you the capacity required for what you have been asking me to place around you. You have sometimes interpreted preparation as rejection because you could not yet see its purpose. You watched others move ahead while your path appeared quiet, and you wondered whether I had forgotten your name. But a delay is not always a denial, and hidden development is not wasted time. Roots grow where applause cannot reach them. Foundations are established before a structure becomes visible. David was anointed long before he sat upon the throne. Joseph received a dream long before he understood the road through which it would be fulfilled. Moses spent years in the wilderness before returning to Egypt with a transformed understanding of strength. Their hidden seasons were not empty gaps in their stories. Those seasons exposed weakness, developed endurance, corrected motives, and prepared them to carry influence without being destroyed by it. I am doing serious work in your hidden places as well. Do not despise the season in which your greatest progress cannot yet be displayed. Some of the most important changes occurring within you will not produce immediate external evidence. You are learning to pause before reacting. You are recognizing manipulation sooner. You are no longer confusing intensity with love, attention with commitment, or urgency with divine direction. You are beginning to notice when fear is making decisions for you. You are becoming less willing to betray your peace simply to keep another person comfortable. These changes may not appear dramatic, but they are preparing you for a life that will require discernment. You once prayed mainly for open doors. Now I am teaching you to identify which doors should remain closed. Not everything available to you has been assigned to you. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Not every relationship deserves access to your inner life. Not every opportunity that promises advancement will protect your integrity. The next stage will require more than enthusiasm. It will require the ability to distinguish what is impressive from what is right. Proverbs 4:2-3 tells you to guard your heart because everything you do flows from it. Guarding your heart does not mean hardening it. A guarded heart remains capable of love while refusing to ignore truth. A hardened heart assumes everyone is dangerous and rejects connection before character can be revealed. I am not preparing you to become suspicious, cold, or emotionally unreachable. I am preparing you to remain open without becoming careless. You will not have to choose between compassion and wisdom. You can love people without allowing them to control you. You can listen without accepting every accusation. You can serve without becoming responsible for everyone's happiness. You can forgive without repeatedly returning to destructive situations. You can hope without ignoring evidence. This balance is part of the maturity I am forming within you. Before you move forward, examine what you are still carrying. Some things were necessary for survival in the previous season, but will become unnecessary weight in the next. You may have learned to over-explain because people repeatedly misrepresented your intentions. You may have learned to anticipate rejection so that disappointment would not surprise you. You may have learned to remain silent because expressing your needs once led to conflict. You may have learned to work without rest because achievement became the only place you felt valuable. Do not condemn these patterns, but do not automatically bring them with you. Ask whether they still serve truth or merely protect an old wound. You are not standing in the same place anymore. You have greater awareness, stronger boundaries, and a deeper understanding of my presence. The coping mechanism that helped you survive yesterday may prevent you from fully living tomorrow. Release the need to explain every decision to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Release the habit of imagining disaster whenever something good begins. Release the belief that you must exhaust yourself to deserve progress. Release the expectation that every new person will repeat the behavior of someone from your past. Preparation includes making room. Your hands cannot receive what is next while gripping what has ended. You have asked me for newness while secretly preserving an emotional doorway back to the old season. You keep certain messages, memories, fantasies, and possibilities alive because finality frightens you. You say you have moved on, but part of your heart continues waiting for an apology, an explanation, or a return. My child, closure does not always arrive as a conversation. Sometimes closure is the wisdom you gained. Sometimes it is the pattern you finally recognized. Sometimes it is the peace that returned after you stopped pursuing what continually confused you. Sometimes the ending itself is the answer. Do not keep reopening a door merely because silence feels unfamiliar. An empty space is not always evidence that something is missing. It may be space I have cleared for rest, clarity, and future growth. Resist the temptation to fill it too quickly. Loneliness can make old chains appear comforting. Impatience can persuade you to accept a substitute simply because it arrived sooner. But familiarity is not the same as safety, and immediate relief is not the same as lasting peace. Wait long enough to observe the fruit. Jesus taught that people are recognized by their fruit. Words may create an impression, but patterns reveal character. The next chapter of your life must not be built on promises that repeatedly contradict behavior. Pay attention to consistency, accountability, humility, and how a person responds when you establish a boundary. Pay attention to what happens when they are corrected, disappointed, or denied control. Character is often revealed when convenience disappears. Apply this wisdom not only to relationships but also to opportunities. Ask what an opportunity will require from your health, your values, your time, and the people entrusted to your care. A door is not automatically from me because it is profitable, visible, or praised by others. My direction will never require you to become dishonest, cruel, or disconnected from the convictions I have formed within you. There may be sacrifice, uncertainty, and hard work, but you should not have to destroy your soul to prove that you are serious about your calling. Learn to seek direction before emotion becomes attachment. You have sometimes decided what you wanted first and then asked me to approve it. When warning signs appeared, you called them obstacles to overcome. When peace disappeared, you assumed you simply needed more faith. But faith does not mean forcing every desired outcome. Faith also means allowing me to redirect you. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells you to trust in me with all your heart and not lean solely on your own understanding, acknowledging me so I can direct your paths. Trust requires more than asking me to bless your plans. It means giving me permission to interrupt them. Pray, Father, if this is not right for me, expose it before my heart becomes deeply attached. If this path will move me away from truth, close it, even if I initially feel disappointed. If I am being driven by fear, pride, loneliness, or the need for validation, show me clearly. This prayer requires courage because it places truth above preference. Yet what you surrender to my wisdom cannot ultimately rob you of what belongs to your purpose. Do not fear closed doors that protect you from destinations you cannot yet see. At the same time, do not allow past disappointment to make you reject every new possibility. Preparation requires the courage to try again. You may have prayed for an opportunity and then hesitated when it appeared because the memory of failure spoke louder than your desire to grow. You imagined everything that could go wrong and called your fear discernment. But discernment produces clarity. Fear produces paralysis. Discernment can identify a risk and still take a wise step. Fear demands complete certainty before action, and complete certainty is rarely offered. There will be moments when you must move with enough light for only the next step. Psalm 119:105 describes, "My word is a lamp for your feet and a light for your path." A lamp does not always illuminate the entire road. It provides enough light to walk faithfully now. Stop demanding a complete map when I am giving you a clear next instruction. Make the call, submit the application, begin the work, have the honest conversation, establish the boundary, accept the healthy invitation. Complete the task you have delayed. You do not need to feel fearless before you obey. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear will not govern you. Prepare your heart by becoming faithful with what is already in your hands. You may be waiting for a larger platform while neglecting the small responsibility before you. You may be asking for financial increase while avoiding the discipline of managing what you currently receive. You may desire a healthy relationship while refusing to practice honest communication and emotional responsibility. You may ask for greater influence while allowing private habits to weaken your integrity. Preparation is not glamorous. It often looks like keeping promises when no one is watching, completing ordinary work carefully, arriving when you said you would, apologizing without excuses, managing your time, caring for your body, and telling the truth when dishonesty would be more convenient. Luke 1:610 teaches that whoever is faithful with little can also be trusted with much. Do not interpret little as meaningless. The way you handle small assignments is shaping the person who will carry larger ones. Faithfulness is not a performance designed to force me to reward you. It is evidence that your character is becoming stable enough to remain grounded when circumstances change. Prepare also by establishing rhythms that will sustain you. You cannot enter every new season fueled by urgency. Constant exhaustion makes discernment more difficult. When you are depleted, you become more vulnerable to impulsive decisions, emotional reactions, and false comfort. Rest is not a reward reserved for the moment when everything is complete. There will always be another task. Learn to stop before your body forces you to stop. Protect time for prayer that is not centered only on requests. Read scripture not merely to collect promises, but to allow truth to correct the stories fear has written in your mind. Create quiet spaces in which you can hear what constant noise has been covering. Pay attention to sleep, nourishment, movement, and the relationships that either restore or drain you. Spiritual preparation does not require neglecting practical wisdom. Elijah, after a major spiritual victory, became afraid, exhausted, and despairing. Before giving him further instruction, I allowed him to sleep and provided food. Sometimes the most faithful next action is not another hour of striving. It is receiving the rest your human body needs. Do not turn burnout into a badge of devotion. I do not need you destroyed in order to use you. The journey ahead may require endurance, and endurance grows through sustainable faithfulness, not repeated collapse. Consider also the people who will walk beside you. Some relationships were connected to an earlier version of your life and may not continue in the same form. This does not always mean anyone is evil. Paths can diverge because values, responsibilities, and directions change. Do not force permanent closeness where a season has ended. Release people without creating unnecessary enemies. Honor what was good, acknowledge what no longer fits, and allow distance to develop without turning every transition into betrayal. At the same time, recognize the relationships I am sending to strengthen the next part of your journey. Healthy people may initially feel unfamiliar because they do not reproduce the emotional instability you once associated with connection. Their consistency may seem less exciting than the unpredictability you learned to chase. Do not mistake peace for boredom. Do not create conflict to test whether someone will stay. Do not make them repeatedly prove that they are different from the person who wounded you. Observe patiently, communicate clearly, and allow trust to grow through mutual reliability. You will need people who can celebrate you without competing, correct you without humiliating you, and support your growth without demanding control. You will also need the humility to receive correction. Preparation is not only learning to protect yourself from harmful people, it is becoming a person who can participate in healthy relationships. Ask whether you listen when someone expresses a concern. Ask whether you become defensive, withdraw, punish, or manipulate when you feel vulnerable. Ask whether your boundaries are clear or whether you expect others to read your mind. Ask whether you offer the honesty, consistency, and respect you desire to receive. Healing does not make you exempt from accountability. It equips you to respond to accountability without collapsing into shame. You can admit that you were wrong without concluding that you are worthless. You can repair harm without making excuses. You can change your behavior without losing your dignity. This humility will protect what pride would eventually damage. Prepare your heart to receive good things without sabotaging them. You have lived with disappointment for so long that peace may initially feel suspicious. When something begins to go well, you may search for the hidden danger. You may emotionally withdraw before anyone has the opportunity to leave. You may minimize your progress because celebrating feels unsafe. You may create impossible standards so that no blessing can ever feel sufficient. Notice these impulses. They are attempts to avoid future pain by refusing present joy. But you cannot protect yourself from grief without also limiting your capacity for gratitude. There is risk in loving, hoping, creating, and beginning again. Yet, a life organized entirely around avoiding pain becomes another form of captivity. Receive today's goodness without demanding a guarantee about tomorrow. Give thanks for what is real now. Let joy visit without interrogating it. You do not have to apologize for healing, laughing, resting, or enjoying the fruit of your work. Your happiness does not betray the person you were when you suffered. It honors the fact that suffering did not receive the final word. Guard against the temptation to announce every new beginning before it has taken root. Some things grow best in quiet. You have occasionally shared developing plans with people who lacked the maturity to protect them. Their doubt entered your mind, their opinions weakened your clarity, or their attention pressured you to produce results before the process was ready. Not everything I show you must immediately become public. Mary treasured certain things in her heart before their full meaning unfolded. Learn the discipline of holy privacy. Privacy is not fear or secrecy. It is stewardship. Share early stages with people who possess wisdom, discretion, and genuine concern for your well-being. Let fruit become established before seeking applause. You do not need public validation to confirm private obedience. The next stage must be built more upon conviction than reaction. Do not choose a path merely to prove someone wrong. A life built around revenge is still controlled by the person it intends to defeat. Success will not heal you if its primary purpose is to make others regret underestimating you. Let your growth arise from purpose, not retaliation. You do not need to become impressive enough to force an apology from those who dismissed you. Their recognition is not the prize. Freedom is the prize. Integrity is the prize. Becoming able to live without their approval is part of the victory. Ask me to purify your motives. It is possible to pursue a good goal for a wounded reason. I may slow you down long enough to separate calling from ego service from performance and faithfulness from the need to be seen. Do not fear this examination. Pure motives do not mean you will never enjoy recognition or success. They mean recognition no longer determines whether the work has value. You will remain faithful when the room is full and when no one applauds. You will know why you began, and that clarity will sustain you when emotion changes. There will be resistance on the next road. Preparation does not guarantee the absence of difficulty. It prevents difficulty from surprising you into surrender. Do not interpret every challenge as evidence that you chose incorrectly. Some resistance exposes the need for adjustment, other resistance develops endurance. Ask for wisdom to distinguish them. If the path consistently requires you to violate truth, ignore serious warnings, or lose the peace that comes from obedience, reevaluate it. But if the challenge is simply that growth feels unfamiliar, do not retreat automatically. New responsibilities can stretch you. Healthy boundaries can initially produce guilt. Honest conversations can feel uncomfortable. Learning a skill can make you feel inadequate before competence grows. Stay teachable. You are not required to master the entire next season on its first day. Give yourself permission to become a beginner. Ask questions, receive instruction, make corrections. Progress does not require pretending you already know everything. My beloved child, prepare your heart through surrender, discipline, discernment, rest, humility, and hope. Release what no longer belongs. Strengthen what must support you. Repair what remains within your responsibility. Create room for the unfamiliar. Stop using the last season as the only evidence for what the next one can become. Your past may inform you, but it does not have permission to prophesy over your future. The fact that something failed before does not mean every future effort will fail. The fact that someone betrayed you does not mean every future relationship will become betrayal. The fact that you once ignored my warning does not mean you cannot recognize my guidance now. You have learned. You have changed. You are still changing. Speak this prayer from an honest heart. Father, prepare me for what you are preparing for me. Remove every attachment that would pull me backward. Expose motives that need purification and habits that cannot support the life ahead. Teach me to recognize the right doors, the right people, and the right timing. Give me courage when the next step is clear and patience when I must continue waiting. Make me faithful with what is already in my hands. Protect me from rushing because of loneliness, fear, comparison, or pride. Keep my heart tender without making it careless, guarded without making it hard, hopeful without making it naive. Let my character become strong enough to carry every blessing without losing my peace, integrity, or closeness with you. I receive that prayer, and I will continue the work already underway. Do not rush to see visible proof. Practice what I have taught you today. Finish this week with attention. Put one neglected area into order. Release one attachment that repeatedly pulls you backward. Complete one faithful task. Create one boundary. Take one courageous step. Then leave the outcome with me. You do not have to force the next season into existence. Your responsibility is readiness and obedience. Timing belongs to me. When the door opens, you will not need to become someone else to walk through it. You will enter as the person I have been forming through every prayer, delay, lesson, and hidden act of faithfulness. You are not behind. You are being prepared. You are not empty. You are making room. You are not being punished. You are being strengthened. The road ahead may not look exactly as you imagined, but you will meet it with a clearer mind, a steadier spirit, and a heart no longer governed by the wounds of yesterday. Before this week ends, surrender the future one more time. Let me carry what you cannot predict. Let me close what would distract you, preserve what belongs to you, and guide you one step at a time. And before you begin that journey, there is one final act of release. Your soul needs a prayer that places every old burden, lingering fear, painful memory, and unfinished question into my hands. In the next part, you will no longer speak only about freedom. You will ask for it directly, honestly, and completely. My beloved child, you have carried these burdens far enough. You have examined the wounds, confronted the accusations, released those who hurt you, and begun preparing your heart for the road ahead. Now I invite you to stop striving and enter my presence through prayer. You do not need eloquent words. You do not need to appear strong. You only need to become honest. Let this prayer rise from every place within you that is tired of carrying what I have asked you to surrender. Pray with me now. Father, I come before you exactly as I am. I do not come pretending that everything is fine. I do not come hiding my exhaustion behind polished words or religious performance. I come with the memories that still hurt, the questions I cannot answer, the fears I have not conquered, and the burdens I no longer know how to carry. You see every part of me. You know what I reveal and what I conceal. You know the thoughts I have been afraid to speak, the tears I held back, and the battles I fought without telling anyone. Nothing in my heart is hidden from you. Therefore I choose to stop running. I open the doors I have kept locked, and I invite your light into every guarded place. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Reveal anything within me that is leading me away from truth, and guide me along your everlasting way. Father, I confess that I have carried burdens you never asked me to bear. I have taken responsibility for other people's emotions, choices, healing, and approval. I have believed that if I could say the right words, work hard enough, or make myself easier to love, I could prevent others from rejecting me. I have exhausted myself trying to control outcomes that never belonged in my hands. Forgive me for trusting my control more than your care. Forgive me for calling anxiety, preparation, and fear wisdom. Forgive me for believing that everything would collapse if I stopped holding it together. Today I acknowledge that you are God and I am not. I release the people I cannot change, the situations I cannot repair, and the future I cannot predict. Teach me to fulfill my responsibilities faithfully without assuming responsibilities that belong to you. When I am tempted to control, remind me to pray. When I am tempted to chase, teach me to wait. When I am tempted to force a door, give me courage to trust your direction. Father, I surrender the pain of betrayal. You saw what happened. You know what was promised, what was broken, and what it cost me. You know how deeply I wanted the relationship to be different. You know the conversations I replayed, the explanations I desired, and the apology I waited to receive. I place that person and the entire story into your hands. I release my demand for revenge. I release my need to watch for their consequences. I release the fantasy that their regret is necessary for my healing. Judge with righteousness, correct what must be corrected, and protect those who could be harmed by destructive patterns. Give me wisdom to maintain necessary boundaries without allowing hatred to grow within me. I forgive as an act of obedience even where my emotions are still learning to follow. When the memory returns, help me surrender it again. Do not let bitterness become the permanent language of my heart. Free me from every invisible attachment to the person who wounded me. Father, I surrender the pain of rejection. I have allowed closed doors, unanswered messages, lost relationships, and other people's opinions to become evidence against my worth. I have asked what was wrong with me when someone failed to recognize what I carried. I have altered myself to gain acceptance and remained silent to avoid abandonment. Forgive me for giving human approval authority that belongs only to you. Teach me to remember that rejection can redirect me without defining me. Let my identity rest in your love rather than in changing reactions from others. Where I have been excluded, heal me. Where I have been misunderstood, defend my heart from resentment. Where I must accept correction, make me humble. Where I must reject manipulation, make me clear and courageous. I no longer want to abandon myself to persuade someone else to stay. Father, I surrender my regret. I give you every decision I wish I could reverse, every opportunity I failed to recognize, and every season I believe I wasted. I confess the choices that were sinful, selfish, fearful, or unwise. I do not excuse them. I ask for mercy and receive the forgiveness made available through Jesus Christ. Your word declares in 1 John 1:9 that when we confess our sins, you are faithful and just to forgive us and cleanse us from unrighteousness. Cleanse me now, where possible. Show me how to make amends. Where consequences remain, give me strength to face them with humility. Where nothing can be changed, teach me to accept grace. Silence the voice that says my worst moment has become my permanent identity. I refuse to continue punishing someone. You are calling to repentance and restoration. I am not proud of every chapter, but I believe you can redeem the entire story. Father, help me forgive myself. I forgive myself for not recognizing the warning signs sooner. I forgive myself for staying where I was repeatedly wounded. I forgive myself for returning when loneliness weakened my resolve. I forgive myself for the moments when I reacted from pain instead of wisdom. I forgive myself for neglecting my needs, doubting my perceptions, and accepting less than honesty. I forgive the version of me who was trying to survive with limited understanding. I will keep the lesson, but I release the hatred I have directed toward myself. Teach me to take responsibility without living under condemnation. Romans 8:1 declares that there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Help me live as though I believe that truth. When the accuser reminds me of my past, remind me of your grace. When shame tells me to hide, draw me closer. When I stumble, teach me to return quickly instead of disappearing into self-punishment. Father, I release the words spoken against me. I renounce every label that does not agree with your truth. I am not worthless. I am not impossible to love. I am not too damaged to heal. I am not permanently disqualified. I am not destined to repeat every pattern I inherited. I reject the words that called me weak because I felt deeply selfish, because I established boundaries, or foolish because I trusted. Show me where criticism contains truth that can help me grow, but protect me from accepting contempt as correction. Let your voice become clearer than every voice that tried to define me. Renew my mind. Teach me to speak accurately about myself. When I fail, help me say I made a mistake and I can learn instead of I ruin everything. When I struggle, help me say I need support instead of I am hopeless. When the road is uncertain, help me say I do not know what comes next, but God remains with me. Father, I surrender fear of the future. I release every imagined disaster I have rehearsed. I release the fear of losing what I love, failing at what I begin, and being disappointed again. I release the fear that I am behind, that time has run out, or that my best days have already passed. The future belongs to you. You are already present in every day I have not yet reached. Give me wisdom for the responsibilities before me, but keep me from living mentally inside problems that do not exist. As Jesus taught in Matthew 6:3-4, help me refuse to borrow tomorrow's trouble. Give me daily bread for daily needs, daily strength for daily obedience, and daily grace for daily weakness. I do not need the entire map tonight. I need enough light for the next faithful step. Father, I release comparison. Forgive me for looking at another person's progress and using it as evidence that you have forgotten me. Forgive me for measuring my private struggle against someone else's public appearance. Their timing is not my sentence. Their blessing is not my rejection. Their path does not cancel mine. Teach me to celebrate what you are doing in others without questioning what you are doing in me. Close my ears to the pressure of false timelines. Protect me from rushing into wrong relationships, unsuitable opportunities, or premature decisions simply because I fear being left behind. Make me faithful in my season. Let gratitude replace comparison and obedience replace competition. Father, I release grief. I grieve what ended, what changed, and what never became what I hoped it would be. I grieve the person I lost, the relationship I imagined, the years I cannot recover, and the future I once expected. Meet me in this sorrow. Do not let me become ashamed of tears. Jesus wept even while knowing resurrection was near. Teach me that grief and faith can exist in the same heart. I trust you and I still hurt. I believe you can restore me and I still miss what was lost. Hold these truths together when I do not know how. Comfort me without requiring me to deny the significance of what happened. Let sorrow move through me without becoming the atmosphere in which I permanently live. Father, heal the wounds I have hidden. Enter the memory I avoid and the place in my body where fear still gathers. Calm the alarm that sounds when something reminds me of the past. Teach my mind and body that the danger is no longer happening. Restore my sleep. Quiet the thoughts that race when the room becomes silent. Loosen the tension I carry in my shoulders, jaw, chest, and stomach. Give me wisdom to seek qualified help when I need it and humility to receive care without shame. Send trustworthy people who can listen without exploiting my vulnerability. Give me discernment concerning whom to trust and how much to share. Protect me from isolation, but also protect me from exposing tender places to unsafe hands. Father, break every unhealthy attachment where I have confused pain with love. Teach me what love truly looks like. Where inconsistency has made me chase harder, teach me to value stability. Where I have become dependent upon attention, help me find security in your presence. Give me strength to stop checking what keeps reopening the wound. Help me remove messages, images, contacts, and habits that draw my heart backward. I release the hope that someone's potential will become reality simply because I wait longer. Teach me to observe fruit rather than promises. Let me stop romanticizing what repeatedly stole my peace. I release every door you have closed, and I ask you to keep it closed if opening it would return me to captivity. Father, remove resentment from me. I do not want what others did to determine who I become. I refuse to let cruelty make me cruel, dishonesty make me dishonest, or rejection make me incapable of receiving love. Cleanse my motives. Do not let my future success become an attempt to punish those who underestimated me. Free me from the desire to prove my value through achievement. Let my work arise from purpose, service, and obedience. If recognition comes, keep me grounded. If recognition does not come, keep me faithful. Let integrity matter more than applause and peace matter more than appearance. Father, release me from perfectionism. I confess that I have often treated mistakes as threats to my identity. I have delayed beginning because I feared doing something imperfectly. I have dismissed small progress because it did not satisfy impossible standards. Teach me excellence without self-destruction. Teach me discipline without cruelty. Help me become a willing beginner. Give me patience to learn slowly, courage to ask questions, and humility to accept correction. Let me honor small beginnings. Show me the next practical action and help me complete it without demanding that it solve my entire life. Father, restore what the burdens have depleted. Restore my ability to hope without fear. Restore my capacity to love without abandoning wisdom. Restore my creativity, focus, laughter, and desire to participate fully in life. Call forward the gifts I buried beneath shame. Awaken the dreams I surrendered because disappointment made hope feel unsafe. If a dream no longer belongs to my purpose, help me release it peacefully. If it still belongs, show me how to rebuild it upon stronger foundations. I do not ask to return unchanged to the person I was before the pain. Make me wiser, steadier, more compassionate, and more deeply rooted in truth. Father, prepare me for the next stage of my journey. Remove habits that cannot support what you are building. Purify my motives and correct my expectations. Teach me to recognize the difference between fear and discernment, between urgency and direction, between an open door and an assigned door. Give me courage to obey when your instruction is clear. Give me patience when your answer is wait. Keep me from accepting substitutes because I am lonely or impatient. Let me observe character over time. Help me receive healthy relationships without testing them through old wounds. Make me capable of offering the honesty, consistency, accountability, and respect that I desire from others. Father, teach me to rest. I release the belief that exhaustion proves my faithfulness. I release the pressure to solve every problem tonight. My body has limits, and those limits are not moral failures. Help me create rhythms that sustain prayer, work relationships, and health. Give me wisdom to stop before I collapse. Let rest become an act of trust. While I sleep, remind me that you remain awake. While I pause, remind me that your work continues. While I wait, remind me that hidden growth is still growth. Father, I surrender every unanswered question. I may never fully understand why certain events were permitted, why some prayers appeared unanswered, or why justice did not arrive according to my timetable. I release my demand to understand everything before I trust you. This does not mean my questions are unimportant. It means I choose to place them within a relationship greater than my limited understanding. Where I felt abandoned by you, meet me with compassion. Where disappointment made me distant, draw me back without shame. Restore the simplicity of honest prayer. Teach me to remain in your presence even when I cannot explain your ways. Father, I place every person I love into your hands. I cannot protect them from every hardship, make every decision for them, or control the course of their lives. Give me wisdom to support without controlling, to advise without forcing, and to care without losing myself. Where intervention is necessary, make me courageous. Where silence is wiser, restrain my words. Where distance is required, help me accept it. I trust that your reach extends beyond mine. Go where I cannot go, speak where I cannot speak, work in places I cannot see. Father, I surrender my finances, work, home, relationships, health, calling, and future. Show me what lies within my responsibility and what must be left with you. Give me practical wisdom, disciplined action, and freedom from panic. Open the doors aligned with truth. Close the doors that would compromise my integrity. Protect me from opportunities that appear impressive but carry hidden destruction. Teach me to recognize provision even when it arrives differently from what I expected. Make me a faithful steward of what is already in my hands. Father, replace every old burden with what comes from you. Replace anxiety with peace that is grounded in your presence. Replace shame with repentance and assurance. Replace bitterness with freedom. Replace confusion with the next clear step. Replace isolation with wise connection. Replace exhaustion with sustainable strength. Replace the need for approval with security in your love. Replace fear of endings with trust that you can guide me through transition. Replace the old story that says I will never change with the truth that transformation is already underway. I lay down these burdens now. I release the weight from my mind, my body, and my spirit. I will not pick it up again simply because it feels familiar. If I reach for it tomorrow, remind me that surrender can be practiced again. If anxiety returns, lead me back to this moment. If shame speaks, remind me of grace. If resentment rises, remind me that justice belongs to you. If fear predicts disaster, remind me that I have been given strength for the present day. My freedom does not depend upon never feeling the old emotion again. It grows each time I refuse to let that emotion become my master. Lord Jesus, thank you for inviting the weary and burdened to come to you. I come now. I receive the rest you promised. I exchange the yoke of fear, performance control, and condemnation for the yoke that is easy and the burden that is light. Teach me your gentleness. Reorder my thoughts. Steady my heart. Guard my mind as I enter the days ahead. I declare that my past will instruct me but will not imprison me. What happened to me will not determine everything available to me. I am forgiven, and I will learn to walk without condemnation. I am loved, and I will no longer beg for acceptance in places that require me to betray myself. I am being healed, and I will cooperate with that healing through truth, boundaries, rest-wise support, and obedience. I am being prepared, and I will not despise hidden seasons. I am not abandoned. I am not forgotten. I am not beyond restoration. Father, let this prayer mark the end of an old agreement. I no longer agree with the belief that I must carry everything alone. I no longer agree that pain is the only future available to me. I no longer agree that another person's behavior determines my worth. I no longer agree that my mistakes have greater authority than your mercy. I no longer agree that waiting means you are absent. I choose truth. I choose surrender. I choose forgiveness. I choose wise boundaries. I choose to take the next faithful step, even before I know how the whole journey will unfold. Thank you for hearing the prayer beneath my words. Thank you for receiving what I was finally willing to release. Thank you for remaining near during the seasons when I could not feel you. Seal this work within me. Let peace settle where pressure lived. Let light enter where shame remained hidden. Let my breathing slow, my mind become quiet, and my heart remember that it is held. I place the week that is ending into your hands, and I place the week ahead there too. What I cannot change, I surrender. What I must repair, give me courage to face. What I must leave behind, help me release. What I must begin, help me begin faithfully. I trust you with every unfinished detail. In the name of Jesus, amen. My beloved child, now rest. You have spoken what your heart needed to say. Do not immediately return to the mental courtroom and retrieve the evidence you just surrendered. Let this prayer become a boundary between the burden you carried and the freedom you are learning to receive. The week may soon come to an end, but the hope I have placed within you is not ending with it. In the final part, I will remind you why an unfinished story can still be filled with promise, and why the closing of this week can become the beginning of a life no longer governed by yesterday. My beloved child, this week may be coming to an end, but your story is not ending with it. The days behind you may contain disappointments you did not expect, prayers that still appear unanswered, conversations that left you wounded, and responsibilities that consumed more strength than you believed you had. Perhaps you began this week with plans that never unfolded, hope that was tested, or confidence that gradually weakened beneath uncertainty. You may look back and see unfinished tasks, missed opportunities, emotional reactions you regret, and moments when fear spoke more loudly than faith. Yet I do not want you to measure the meaning of your life by the outcome of 7 difficult days. A hard week is not a hopeless future. A delayed answer is not a permanent refusal. A closed door is not proof that every road has ended. You are standing at the conclusion of a chapter, not at the conclusion of my work within you. Do not confuse what is unfinished with what has been abandoned. I am still present in the questions, still active in the waiting, and still guiding you through circumstances whose purpose you cannot yet fully understand. The calendar may change before your situation changes, but my faithfulness does not depend upon visible evidence. Hebrews 1:1 describes faith as confidence in what is hoped for and assurance concerning what is not seen. Faith does not require you to deny reality. It gives you courage to acknowledge reality without allowing it to become the limit of what I can do. You can say, "This hurts," while still believing healing is possible. You can admit, "I do not know what comes next," while trusting that you will not face it alone. You can recognize that an opportunity has ended without declaring that purpose has ended. Hope is not pretending that every circumstance will immediately become easy. Hope is the settled conviction that pain, delay, rejection, and uncertainty will not receive the final authority over your life. Before this week ends, release the demand that everything must make sense now. Some answers only become visible after you have traveled farther. When Joseph was betrayed, sold, falsely accused, and imprisoned, he could not yet see how those scattered events would eventually converge. Each chapter appeared to contradict the dream he had received, yet the delay was not the death of the promise. The hidden years were forming wisdom, endurance, leadership, and humility within him. You may also be living inside a chapter that seems disconnected from the future you once imagined. Do not judge the entire story from the page you are currently reading. I can connect what appears fragmented. I can use what you learned in disappointment to protect you in future opportunity. I can transform the wisdom gained through loss into compassion that strengthens another person. I can redirect a path without wasting the steps you have already taken. Romans 8:28 does not declare that every event is good. It teaches that I work through all things for the good of those who love me and are called according to my purpose. Human wrongdoing remains wrong. Loss remains painful. Betrayal remains a violation of trust. But none of these possess enough power to prevent me from bringing purpose out of what they attempted to destroy. This week may have revealed something you did not want to see. Perhaps someone's character became clearer. Perhaps a plan proved unsustainable. Perhaps your own exhaustion exposed the cost of living without boundaries. Do not despise the truth simply because it arrived painfully. Revelation is sometimes the first form of rescue. What has been exposed can now be addressed. What has ended can no longer demand that you keep pretending. What disappointed you may have released you from an illusion that would have cost even more in the future. Ask not only why did this happen, but also, what is this teaching me? What must I release, and how can I respond faithfully now? You do not have to discover a perfect explanation. You need only enough clarity to take the next honest step. Do not carry this week's failures into the next one as predictions. You may have fallen into an old habit, avoided an important task, spoken carelessly, or made a decision from fear. Acknowledge it. Confess what was wrong. Repair what lies within your responsibility. Then begin again. Lamentations 3:22-23 declares that my compassion never fails and that my mercies are new every morning. New mercy does not erase responsibility. It prevents yesterday's failure from becoming today's identity. You are permitted to learn without hating yourself. You are permitted to restart without pretending the setback never occurred. You are permitted to move slowly without calling yourself lazy. The next beginning does not need to be dramatic. It may be a quiet decision made while no one is watching, to rise and pray again, to complete one neglected responsibility, to ask for help, to keep a boundary, or to stop returning to something that repeatedly destroys your peace. Small obedience is still obedience. Do not underestimate what I can build through consistent, ordinary faithfulness. You have spent enough time believing that progress only counts when it can be displayed. Some of the deepest progress this week happened where no one applauded. You resisted an impulse that once controlled you. You paused before responding in anger. You recognized a familiar pattern and chose not to repeat it. You admitted that you were tired. You forgave someone without reopening the door to harm. You allowed yourself to grieve rather than disguising pain as strength. You asked for support. You returned to my presence after shame told you to hide. These may appear small, but they reveal that transformation is taking place. Fruit does not appear the moment a seed enters the soil. For a time, the most important work remains invisible. Do not dig up what has been planted merely because you cannot yet see growth above the surface. Protect it through patience, truth, wise action, and prayer. I am not asking you to manufacture hope through emotional excitement. Feelings change with sleep, stress, circumstances, and the words of other people. The hope I offer is deeper than a temporary mood. It can remain present while you are tired. It can sit beside grief. It can breathe inside uncertainty. It can whisper, "Take one more faithful step," even when you do not feel courageous. Romans 1:5-13 calls me the God of hope and asks that you be filled with joy and peace as you trust me, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Notice that hope grows through trust, not control. You do not need to know every outcome. You need to know where you will turn when outcomes remain unknown. Bring the next week to me before it begins. Do not fill it with imagined disasters. Do not mentally live every difficult possibility before any of them occurs. Planning is wise, but rehearsing catastrophe is not preparation. Organize what you can, make responsible decisions, and leave room for life to unfold. Matthew 6:34 teaches you not to worry about tomorrow because each day has sufficient trouble of its own. This is not an invitation to become careless. It is permission to stop borrowing burdens from days that have not arrived. You will receive strength when strength is needed. You will receive wisdom as you seek it. You will not be required to carry the entire future tonight. Let tomorrow remain in my hands while you faithfully inhabit the present moment. As you enter the next week, do not return to the identities you have surrendered. You are not the rejected person desperately trying to prove value. You are not the condemned person endlessly paying for forgiven mistakes. You are not the abandoned person required to chase anyone who withdraws. You are not the exhausted person responsible for keeping everyone satisfied. You are not the frightened person who must control every detail to feel safe. Those patterns may call your name because they are familiar, but familiarity does not create authority. Answer them with truth. Say, I no longer measure my worth by another person's ability to recognize it. I accept responsibility without accepting condemnation. I can love people without abandoning myself. I can prepare wisely without attempting to control everything. I can rest without believing that the world depends upon my exhaustion. Repeat these truths when old habits return. Renewal is strengthened through practice. Do not become discouraged because freedom must be chosen more than once. Each decision creates a new path within you. Guard your heart without closing it. The pain of the past may tempt you to enter the future expecting betrayal from everyone, but suspicion is not the same as discernment. Suspicion condemns before evidence appears. Discernment observes patiently. Suspicion assumes that closeness always ends in harm. Discernment allows trust to develop according to consistent character. You do not need to reveal your deepest wounds immediately, nor must you remain unreachable. Let people demonstrate who they are. Listen to their words, but examine their patterns. Notice whether they respect your boundaries, accept responsibility, and remain consistent when they do not receive what they want. Healthy love will not require you to silence your convictions, surrender your dignity, or live in permanent confusion. Peace may initially feel unfamiliar after prolonged instability. Do not reject it simply because it lacks the emotional intensity you once mistook for love. Prepare to receive goodness without interrogating it. You have sometimes believed that anticipating loss would make loss less painful. Therefore, whenever something good appeared, you searched for signs that it would disappear. You emotionally left before anyone could leave you. You minimized joy so disappointment would have less to take. But fear cannot protect you without also limiting your ability to live. Receive today's goodness as today's gift. Give thanks without demanding a guarantee concerning tomorrow. Laugh when laughter comes. Rest when rest is available. Celebrate progress without apologizing. Joy is not denial of what you endured. It is evidence that suffering did not destroy your capacity to live. Nehemiah 8:10 teaches that the joy of the Lord is your strength. Joy can become strength for the road ahead. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because pain is no longer the only truth your heart recognizes. There will still be moments of uncertainty. Hope does not guarantee that every door will open, every person will remain, or every prayer will be answered in the form you prefer. I will not deceive you with a promise of a life without difficulty. Jesus said that trouble would exist in this world, but he also said to take heart because he has overcome the world. Your confidence is not that circumstances will always obey your desires. Your confidence is that no circumstance can separate you from my presence. When the answer is yes, I will guide you in receiving it. When the answer is wait, I will sustain you in the space between prayer and fulfillment. When the answer redirects you, I will help you release what you wanted and recognize the wisdom you could not initially see. My presence is not proven only by favorable outcomes. Sometimes it is revealed most clearly in the strength that carries you through an outcome you never would have chosen. Remember how many moments you once thought you could not survive. You are still here. You have cried, questioned, stumbled, and felt afraid, but you are still here. This does not mean you survived by your own strength. There were days when grace carried you while you had no language for it. There were dangers from which you were protected without knowing. There were closed doors that prevented deeper wounds. There were people sent at necessary moments, thoughts redirected before destructive decisions, and small provisions that arrived when you believed you had been forgotten. Look back not to live in the past, but to recognize evidence of faithfulness. The same God who sustained you then has not changed now. Let remembrance strengthen hope. Write down what you do not want fear to make you forget. Record the prayers that have been answered, the lessons learned, and the moments when help arrived. Your mind may naturally preserve threats more vividly than mercy, so practice remembrance deliberately. When uncertainty speaks, return to the record. Say, I have been carried before. I have received wisdom before. I have endured change before. I have discovered a path where I once saw none. This is not confidence in your ability to control life. It is confidence that you will not be left alone within it. Release the timeline you created for yourself. You believed certain things should have happened by a particular age, date, or season. When they did not, you interpreted the difference as failure. But your life is not late because it does not resemble another person's. Comparison creates deadlines I never gave you. Some prayers require preparation. Some relationships require healing before they can be received wisely. Some opportunities would have overwhelmed the earlier version of you. Some delays protect what haste would damage. Continue taking responsible action, but stop insulting your present because it does not match an imagined schedule. You are not disqualified by a slower path. You are not invisible because recognition has not yet arrived. You are not barren because fruit remains beneath the surface. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says that I make everything beautiful in its time. Your responsibility is not to force the season. It is to remain faithful within it. Perhaps what comes next will not resemble what you expected. Keep your heart open to a form of restoration different from the one you imagined. You may be asking for the return of something I am replacing with something healthier. You may be praying to recover an old identity while I am forming a new one. You may expect restoration to mean returning to the original condition, but sometimes restoration means becoming whole without returning to the old environment. I can restore your ability to love without restoring the relationship that broke your trust. I can restore your confidence without returning you to the place where you learned to doubt yourself. I can restore purpose through an assignment different from the one that ended. Do not overlook new life because it does not wear the face of your original request. Isaiah 4:3-19 declares that I am doing a new thing and asks whether you perceive it. Newness requires perception. It may begin as a small invitation, a changed desire, a quiet conviction, or a door that appears less impressive than the one you lost. Remain attentive. Do not let grief make you blind to grace, arriving in another form. As this week ends, forgive yourself for what you did not complete. This does not mean abandoning discipline. Review your responsibilities honestly. Decide what must be continued, delegated, scheduled, or released. But do not turn an unfinished list into a verdict against your character. Your value was not created by productivity, and exhaustion does not increase it. You are a human being with limits. Learn from the weak. Adjust what was unrealistic. Protect your attention more carefully. Rest where you have become depleted. Then begin the next week with fewer false promises and more faithful priorities. You do not need to transform your entire life on the first morning. Choose what matters most and take the next clear action. Consistency will carry you farther than an emotional burst followed by collapse. Carry forward the wisdom, not the weight. Carry the lesson, not the resentment. Carry discernment, not suspicion. Carry responsibility, not shame. Carry remembrance, not regret. Carry hope, not unrealistic guarantees. Let everything else remain here at the boundary between the week that is closing and the one that is about to begin. You do not need to retrieve what you have already placed in my hands. When your mind tries to reopen the old case, say, I have surrendered this. I will respond only if there is a faithful action to take. If no action is required, return to peace. Not every thought deserves a conversation. Not every memory requires another investigation. Not every emotion is an instruction. Let truth decide what receives your attention. My beloved child, hear this before the week ends. You are still loved. You are still being guided. You are still capable of healing, learning, and beginning again. Your tears have not disqualified you. Your questions have not frightened me. Your delay has not erased your purpose. Your failure has not exhausted my mercy. Your age has not placed you beyond new beginnings. Your past has not gained ownership of your future. You may not see the entire road, but there is enough light for your next step. You may not feel completely healed, but you are no longer where you began. You may not possess every answer, but you have learned which burdens no longer belong to you. Let that be enough for tonight. Breathe slowly. Release your shoulders. Unclench your hands. You are not required to finish the whole story before you rest. The author remains awake. Psalm 121 declares that the one who watches over you neither slumbers nor sleeps. While you rest, I remain present. While you wait, I remain active. While 1 week closes, my mercy is already waiting in the morning ahead. Say this now with a willing heart. This week may be ending, but my hope is not ending. I release what I cannot change. I receive mercy for what I regret. I carry forward the wisdom I have gained. I trust God with what remains unfinished. I will not enter the next week condemned, bitter, or controlled by fear. I am loved, guided, forgiven, and still being restored. My story is not over. God is still working in me. Let these words settle deeper than your emotions. You do not need to feel powerful for truth to remain true. Take the next week one day at a time, one prayer at a time, and one obedient decision at a time. When you become tired, return to me. When confusion rises, seek wisdom. When you make a mistake, correct it without condemning yourself. When goodness appears, receive it gratefully. When an old wound speaks, remind it that healing has already begun. When fear says the future is empty, remember that you have never entered a day where my presence was absent. Before you leave this message, place one final declaration in the comments. My hope will not end here. Let it mark your decision to stop giving temporary pain permanent authority. Share this message with someone whose heart has been carrying a heavy week, not as a promise that every problem will disappear immediately, but as a reminder that they do not have to face what comes next alone. And if these words have helped you hear truth above fear, remain connected to this channel so we can continue walking through scripture, prayer, healing, and hope together. Now go forward in peace. The week may end, plans may change, people may leave, and answers may take time, but the hope rooted in my presence will remain. Morning is coming. Mercy is waiting. Your next faithful step is still available, and your story is still being written.